What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
3 Shish. Chapter 61 Today, we Mist Shinobi 7 Swords are coming to face your hero. Mist Shinobi Kadao came with 1,000 fog ninjas. Orochimaru, Uchiha Fugaku and others were still waiting for the battle, and they were mentally prepared to join the battle at any time. However, when the Mist Shinobi army faintly surrounded them, the leading Mist Shinobi Kadao not only did not launch an attack, but did not even look at them, the Konoha Shinobi, but instead cast their sights in unison. It came to Carl, who was leaning against a big tree. These fog ninjas are not coming for us. In other words, we Konoha Shinobi are not the primary target of Mist Shinobi. Quote. Orochimaru's heart moved, and the snake eyes involuntarily glanced at Carl. Mist Shinobi's target is Iron Fist Carl. Not only him, many Konoha Shinobi practitioners have similar ideas. Interesting, you brats from Mist Shinobi really surprised me more or less. Carl crossed his arms and looked at Mist Shinobi Kadao with a hint of amusement. Really, it's really our honor to be able to surprise the heroes of the ninja world. Loquat Juzang with a cross scar on his face grinned, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth. But what surprises you even more is yet to come. The corner of the watermelon mountain puffer ghost's mouth raised, his face was full of rebelliousness. Tell me. Hearing this, Carl looked with great interest at Mist Shinobi 7 Swords, who was walking in front of Mist Shinobi. Nothing. Today, we, Mist Shinobi, will fight against your hero. Thinking about your identity and strength, you shouldn't refuse the challenge of us Mist Shinobi juniors. At the moment when Carl's voice fell, a total of 7 people, Lee Sage Kushimaru, Tsukusa Yabedo, Marashi Jinhachi, Black Ho Raiga, Chojiro, and the first to speak, Pippa Juzo and Suiguashin Puffer Ghost, pulled out their backs together. The ninja knife pointed at him from a distance. All of a sudden, an aura that made many Konoha Shinobi feel oppressed, even breathless, emanated from Mist Shinobi 7 Swords, and then vented out like a storm. Facing the Mist Shinobi Kadao gathered together, even Orochimaru, Tsunade and other cage-level powerhouses feel dignified, let alone other Konoha Shinobi players. Are you bringing thousands of fog ninjas to challenge the old man? Facing the gauntlet issued by Mist Shinobi with 7 swords, the smile on Carl's face became more and more intense. He hasn't encountered such a majestic challenge like Mist Shinobi 7 Swords for a long time. Since the Sengoku era, the third Raikage barely counts. As for Luo Sha, Chio and Ebizo's time, they just chose to fight against it because they had to avoid it. Of course not. Chojiro, who was holding a double knife, flounder, shook his head. Don't get me wrong, the reason we brought them is just because we don't want unnecessary people to hinder us. Loquat Juzo waved his beheading sword, and his cold eyes full of warning swept over Orochimaru and others. I think your excellency should be able to understand our difficulties. Li Shuxuanwan's flat tone exuded a cold murderous intent. 7-1, thank you for being able to speak so grandly. At this moment, Uzumaki Kushina suddenly shouted coldly. After all, the opponent is the ninja hero who ended the Sengoku era, so it's too disrespectful to the seniors alone. I think Mr. Carl shouldn't mind that the 7 of us treat one of you. We've all heard that during the Sengoku era, Carl the Iron Fist fought against everyone, no matter how many, and whoever the enemy was, he fought alone. Tongsao Yebiran, Wooly Shiba, and Haiho Leia spoke one after another. This kind of low-level and meaningless aggressive method doesn't have to be used on the old man. Before Uzumaki Kushina could defend himself, Carl had already said. Then Mr. Carl means to accept the challenge of our Mist Shinobi 7 Swords. The eyes of the watermelon mountain puffer ghost flashed, and then drew out the big knife Samahata with one hand. Ha ha ha, do you need to say that? You have investigated the old man's background so clearly, then you should know that the old man has never had the habit of rejecting challenges from others. Quote. Carl grinned. Mist Shinobi 7 Swords, right. Your challenge, the old man is next. I hope that the Kadao of your generation will be better than the generation that the old man has encountered. Quote. After finishing speaking, he strode towards the Mist Shinobi 7 Swords, ignoring the existence of thousands of Mist ninjas behind these 7 people. As expected of the number 1 hero of the Sengoku era, Haki is indeed. Tong Kaoye Baron held the blunt knife Dugai tightly, his cold eyes full of fighting intent fixedly stared at the man who was walking towards him and the others. Where are they? Loquat Juzo resisted the urge to strike, and glanced at Orochimaru, Tsunade and others. The old man is not a Konoha person, but he can't command them. Carl shrugged. It's okay, as juniors, we will certainly relieve your worries for seniors. As soon as the Black Ho Leia finished speaking, Shinming Wunan behind him took a sharp step forward. Seeing this, Orochimaru and the others showed signs of alertness. Boy Lei Dao, I appreciate your kindness, there is no need for such superfluous behavior. As he spoke, Carl walked towards the thousands of Mist Shinobi army alone under the shocked eyes of Mist Shinobi Kadao, Orochimaru and others. Chapter 62 Let the old man see what the quality of this generation of Mist Shinobi 7 Knives is asking for flower evaluation. Is this old guy crazy? Let's not talk about the strength, this courage is simply terrifying. It just came here like this. The demeanor of Sengoku's number 1 hero is simply unbearable. No wonder the ninjas and samurai of that era, whether they were enemies or friends, couldn't hide their admiration when they mentioned his name. The Loquat 10 Tibetans, the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghosts and 7 people watched Carl look at the thousand fogs as if they were nothing, and walked up to the Mist Shinobi army in such a majestic manner. Even under the eyes of the group of fog ninjas pulling out their ninja gear and staring at them, they still did not. He stopped, continued to walk through the line of thousands of one, and walked straight to the 7 of them before stopping. This scene made Mist Shinobi's heart skip a beat. Originally, they thought that the 7 of them dared to challenge the number 1 hero in the ninja world at this time, and it was already extraordinary, but compared with the man in front of them, they were like Yingwo and Haoyu. Although I'm not from Konoha, and I can't command Konoha's boys, but when I come here, you guys from Mist Shinobi should feel relieved. Carl stood behind a row of Kirin of thousands of people, standing in front of Mist Shinobi 7 swords, just under the double team of all Mist Shinobi. This guy. In this scene, not only Mist Shinobi Kadao, but also the presence of Xian Wunan and Orochimaru all changed their expressions in horror. Alone, walk into the enemy's siege. Although there is only one person, he treats thousands of troops and horses as nothing. This kind of boldness, every witness is all moved. As this Iron Fist, Patriarch, I now understand why you called him a hero in the world. Quote. Uchiha only looked at Carl, who was surrounded by heavy fog and could barely see part of his back. His face was full of shock. Before, when Uchiha Fugaku talked about Iron Fist with him, the admiration on his face made him feel incredible. Uchiha's narrow-mindedness and arrogance are as famous in the ninja world as Sharingan. Not to mention facing Carl as an outsider, even facing Uchiha Madara of the same clan, many people still question him. Quote. Uchiha Fugaku didn't speak, his eyes showed a pair of scarlet Sharingan, staring at Carl's back. It was such a man who made Uchiha unable to hold his head up for an entire era. Suddenly, he felt downcast. Facing Iron Fist, he sadly found that he couldn't think of any way for Uchiha to climb over this impassable mountain other than to kill him in age. It seems that in our era, there has never been such a character. Perhaps only in the Sengoku era, when wars are raging and strong men emerge in large numbers, can monsters like Iron Fist be born. No matter how many eras have passed, as long as he is still alive, the era belongs to him. Orochimaru, Ino Shikacho and the others looked at each other, and they were silent for a while. They are all geniuses of the ninja village era, especially Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Uzumaki Kushina are all rare ninjas in decades. However, every time they looked at Carl's back, they felt an unprecedented depression. Tiequan, if you just walk over like this, aren't you afraid that Laozi will order them to surround and kill you? You must know that we are Mist Shinobi 7 swords, the most cruel, cold-blooded, and most insidious and cunning mist ninja in the whole Kurigakure. Things like breaking our promises are just commonplace for us. Quote. Loquat Shizang looked at Carl, who was close at hand, and suppressed his heart palpitations. The other 6 didn't speak, they just looked at Carl murderously. The fog ninjas lined up all hold kunai, long swords, detonating charms and other ninja tools. Although none of them did anything, the murderous aura formed by the gathering of Mist Shinobi's 7 knives and 1,000 mist ninjas still submerged Carl fiercely like waves of invisible turbulent waves. You seem to have misunderstood something. The old man came to you not to prove to you that those Konoha boys will not help the old man, but to allow you to besiege the old man openly. Quote. Carl grinned when he heard that. Quote. Mist Shinobi 7 swords listened, there was silence for a while, and then the 7 raised their ninja swords at the same time. Broken knife, beheading, Loquat 10 Zang. Big sword Samahata, watermelon mountain puffer ghost. Long knife, sewing needle, chestnut scorpion pill. Blunt knife cuts in the pocket, through the grass and wild to bait people. Explosive knife, spray, no pairs. Thunder saber ya, black ho thunder ya. Double knife flounder, Chojiro. The 7 ninja swordsmen were born in the village of Blood Mist, and they have always been indifferent, cunning, cruel, and completely unkind to the ninjas of the same village and even the juniors in the clan. However, at this moment, they are all in awe of the hero who has lived from the last era to the present. Of course, what followed was a murderous intent like a torrential rain. Just as Uchiha did not allow a person as powerful as Carl to exist in the ninja world of the Sengoku era, they also did not allow a hero like Carl to exist in the ninja world of the ninja village era. Let's do it, let the old man see what the quality of this generation of Mist Shinobi 7 swords is. Carl slowly lowered his arms around his chest. Boom. Black Pick Lay Ya, Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost, and the 7 of them looked at each other, and then, brazenly attacked. Mist Shinobi technique. Loquat Shizang and Tongsao Yabaden formed seals at the same time, and the dense fog instantly flooded Carl and the entire battlefield. Chapter 63 It's hard not to let old people underestimate your strength. Water Style Water Burst. Almost at the same time when Loquat Juzang and Sutsukasano Yudo performed Water Style Mist Shinobi technique and set off a dense fog that covered the sky, Lee Sage Kushimaru and Ziguashin Puffer Ghost standing on the other side were also there finish printing synchronously. Boom. The 2 of them opened their mouths to spit out, and the majestic water rushed out madly like a Buddha's embankment, turning the dense fog forest in front of them into a lake in an instant. As the 4 ninja swordsmen made their moves, Kamaiki Wunan, who was double teaming, had to back away, standing on the edge of the lake, leaving the battlefield empty for Iron Fist and Mist Shinobi 7 swords. Orochimaru and others who were confronted with Mist Ninja also gathered chakra on the soles of their shoes, stepped on the lake, quickly retreated to another corner of the lake, and faintly confronted Mist Ninja on the other side. However, whether it is Mist Ninja or Konoha Shinobi, both parties have reached a tacit agreement at this time. They will hold off for a while until the battle between Iron Fist and Mist Shinobi is decided. Water-style water prison technique. Marashi Jinhachi and Chojiro approached Carl silently along the water flow under the cover of thick fog. While the watermelon mountain puffer ghost formed seals and spit out a mighty lake-like water flow, they manipulated the water flow to form a huge water ball in an instant and imprisoned Carl in it. Thunder Fang. At this moment, all the 6 ninja swords turned their attention to the Black Holea who had not moved. Mist Shinobi 7 swords, starting with the elite Jonin level Mist Ninja, with the terrain of the country of water, and the Chunin sword in hand, even quasi-cage level ninjas can fight. However, in addition to the special abilities of the ninja swords they master, most of the Mist Shinobi 7 swords are based on water style. The only exception is the Black Holea who masters Lei Dao Ya. He is not only good at water style, but also good at lightning style. Tekken, this is the grand funeral that we Mist Shinobi prepared for you, I think you will like it. The Black Holea grinned wildly, raising Lei Dao Ya with both hands. Chi. With the light touch of the blades of the 2 thunder knife Ya, a deafening thunderous sound resounded across the entire battlefield. Lightning-style thunder dragon tornado. In the next second, the dark and thick clouds entrenched in the sky had descended, and a brontosaur that illuminated the thick fog flew towards Carl who was in the water prison. Master Orochimaru, is it okay for us to just watch and do nothing? On the edge of the lake, Uzumaki Kushina saw a brontosaurus falling from the sky, one end of which was engulfed in the thick fog that could not be seen clearly, and her eyebrows frowned slightly. The strength of the heroes of the ninja world, didn't you just witness it with your own eyes yesterday? Orochimaru's snake eyes stared at the thick fog without moving away for a moment. That's 7 against 1, it's a completely different thing from going it alone, and there's the 3 tails. Master Kushina, I had the honor to witness His Excellency Carl's attack. For us, Mist Shinobi's 7 swords may be very strong, but in his eyes, it may be just 7 inconspicuous dust. When Uzumaki Kushina was about to say something, Hyuga Hazashi rolled his eyes and looked at the center of the lake. Don't overdo it. Second grandpa once said that it doesn't matter if there is 1 enemy or 1,000 enemies, it doesn't make any difference to Carl uncle. When Tsunade spoke, the huge brontosaurus that fell from the sky and plunged into the thick fog had already opened its mouth and bit hard on Carl, who was restrained by the water ball. Bang! Under the sound of thunder, everyone found that the dense fog covering the entire lake was dispersed a lot at once. Ninjas with sentience sensed the situation in the center of the lake one after another. Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Shisui and others who have no perception but have pupils also open Sharingan and surrender their sights to the center of the battlefield. Originally, due to the interference of the dense fog of water-style chakra, it was difficult for both the white eyes and the Sharingan to see the center of the battlefield further away. But now, with the explosion caused by the brontosaurus, the thick fog was blown away, and the members of Uchiha with Sharingan and white eyes, and the Hyuga family barely saw the situation of the battle. I knew it would be like this. Now that it has been exposed, Uchiha Fugaku simply did not hide the Mangekyo Sharingan, and directly showed the Scarlet Mangekyo Sharingan in full view. However, at this time, this pair of evil eyes, which one dare not look at each other, is full of horror. Boom. If this is the power of your generation of Mist Shinobi 7 swords, that's really disappointing. After an era has passed, Mist Shinobi 7 swords is still the same as what I have seen before, without any improvement. Quote. At the center of the Thunder Dragon explosion, Carl in a black suit walked out while talking. Faced with the washing of the water, the restraint of Shui Lao, and the bite of Thunder Dragon, he didn't even get wet at all. Don't underestimate Mist Shinobi 7 swords. Black Ho Lei Ya's face was filled with anger, and when Lei Dao Ya touched, several thunderbolts, which were bigger than the Thunder Dragon just now, had already burst towards Carl with a deafening roar. It's hard not to let the old man underestimate Mist Shinobi 7 swords with your strength. Facing the thunder and lightning that pierced through the air, Carl stretched out his hand unhurriedly under the gaze of the pupils of the Black Ho Thunder teeth. After the violent thunder and lightning fell into his palm, like a few soft ropes, he was directly pinched in the palm of his right hand. Laugh. With his 5-finger grip, the lightning style that the Black Ho Lei Ya had exerted with all its strength was directly crushed. Chapter 64. Are you bringing this kind of toy specially to amuse me? Seeking flower evaluation. Carry water style with your body. Grab lightning style with one hand. Is this something that humans can do? Why do I feel like the 7 ninja knives in our hands are like toys? Mist Shinobi frowned when she saw Carl's actions. Especially the Black Ho Lei Ya, he even lowered his head to glance at his own Lei Dao Ya for the first time. Confirmed, it has not been dropped. But why does Rai Dao Ya, who is known for his tyrannical attack power, behave so hip? 7 knives. Are you bringing this kind of toy specially to tease the old man? Carl patted the dust off his hands, and his eyes swept over the faces of Mist Shinobi 7 swords in front of him one by one. Looking at the 7 swordsmen holding ninja swords, all of them were shocked, and looked like they had never seen the big world. He couldn't help feeling dumbfounded. Just now, seeing Mist Shinobi Kadao coming with 1,000 fog ninjas, directly between the 2 armies, and issuing a letter of war to him, he also had a very long-lost expectation. I also thought that after experiencing the humiliation of the Sengoku era, Kurigakure has been away for an era, not to mention earth-shaking changes, but at least it should be eye-catching. But he had worked very hard just now, but he still couldn't find any bright spots from the 7 people in front of him. What is the level of Mist Shinobi 7 swords in the Sengoku era? The Mist Shinobi 7 swords of the Ninja Village era is at that level. You're right, we're just kidding you. Hey Leia, who was still full of anger just now, suddenly raised his head, with a playful smile on his face. It's not just him. Mizunoyama Puffer Ghost, Chojiro, Sukusa Nobedo, who were all surprised just now, are all smiling slyly now. Is it the Sengoku era that I used to live in, and the years between the current era are too long? What you said made the old man feel like he couldn't understand the language. Quote. Carl shrugged. There is no language barrier, just the literal meaning. The gloomy face of the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost is full of weird smiles. If you don't understand, let's be more direct. The Black Ho Lei Ya raised Lei Dao Ya and pointed at Carl from afar. We are worried that you are getting old and have forgotten the level of Mist Shinobi 7 swords in the Sengoku era, so we did our best to perform just now, so that you can relive the weak strength of our old predecessors. Chojiro stared with a pair of dead eyes, and his tone was full of ridicule. And then, Carl's face remained unchanged. In this way, you can have a clear comparison with Iron Fist, and you can tell us before you die, how much stronger our generation of 7 swords is than the generation you have faced before. Wooly Jinba spread his hands, giving people an indescribable arrogance. Don't worry, we will definitely pay attention to the seriousness, and we must leave you with a sigh of relief. Tong Kaoye Baron said in a cold voice. After all, the 7 of us really want to know how strong we are. After Curry Sage Kushimaru finished speaking, he slammed the long knife and sewing needle into the water with his right hand. Not only him, Zigwashan Puffer Ghost and others also made moves. The 7 of them stuck their ninja swords in the water in front of them at the same time, and at the same time stretched out their left hands to hold the handles tightly. Untie. In the next second, 7 people formed a seal with one hand at the same time. The 7 ninja knives simultaneously emitted 7 rays of light of different colors. As soon as these 7 kinds of light appeared, the hands of the 7 people holding the handle of the knife immediately spread all the way to the 7 of them. Boom. With 7 people and 7 knives as the center, wave after wave of violently roaring storms rolled up surging waves and roared in all directions. The towering trees around the lake were instantly crushed by the storm, and the whole tree was bent down. Some trees that were younger and not tough enough were crushed by the storm on the spot. This is true for the trees rooted on the ground, let alone the grass and soil around the lake. Under the impact of the windball caused by the angry person and Kadao, the ground within 100 meters of the lake was overturned to a thickness of 1 meter on the spot, and countless plants and trees were uprooted on the spot. Although Konoha Shinobi and Mist Shinobi standing on both sides of the lake will not be blown to the ground on the spot, they must use chakra to gather on their feet and firmly rooted in the lake so as not to be blown away. What are those 7 guys? A chakra of this size, is it really something Mist Shinobi can have? It's fake. Only tailed beasts can have such a sense of oppression. Orochimaru, Tsunade, Inoshika-cho and others stretched out their hands to block the roaring hurricane that kept hitting their faces, with disbelief written all over their faces. Mist Shinobi 7 swords has been the signature of Kurigakure since the establishment of Ninja Village. The information about the 7 knives had entered the key investigation list of the major ninja villages long before the First Ninja World War. After several battles in the ninja world, more than 90% of the information about the various abilities of the 7 ninja swords and the fog ninja of this year's ninja swords have been investigated clearly. Not to mention the 7 ninja knives, the level of the 7 ninja katana masters in the contemporary era varies from high to low. The lowest elite Jonin starts, and the highest is the general cage level, and it is still the ordinary cage level with no special secret skills, blood succession limit, and physique. As it is now, the movement releases chakra that causes celestial phenomena to change. Looking at several ninja world wars, that is something that has never happened before. Chapter 65 This is Balian's idea. Seeking flower evaluation. Clan Chief Fugaku, why didn't I know that Mist Shinobi's 7 swords are so powerful? Seeing the Mist Shinobi 7 swords continuously releasing the powerful chakra, Orochimaru couldn't help but turned his head and asked Uchiha Fugaku beside him. Since the First Ninja World War, most of Uchiha will be put on the battlefield of the country of water. After all, even though the water-style Mist Shinobi technique is affected and cannot be seen through, it is undoubtedly much stronger than ordinary ninjas without pupil techniques. After the 2 ninja wars, Uchiha's understanding of Mist Shinobi is even more than that of Kurigakure's understanding of his ninja village. Frankly, I don't know what's going on. Leaving aside the other tribesmen, even I myself have fought against Mist Shinobi 7 times in recent years. But after so many years, I have never heard of such a chakra among the 7 swordsmen. Quote. Uchiha Fugaku is also clueless. If Mist Shinobi's 7 knives were like what they are now, when they move, they will explode and overturn the ground, and the chakra will flow backwards. This chakra is like facing Susanoo. Tsunade, Inoshika-cho and others could not help but look at Uchiha Shisui. At this moment, the 7 swordsmen whose body surface was completely covered by the majestic chakra like a hill really looked like Susanoo who had activated the second form. It's just that the structure of chakra is not stable in shape. But in terms of the amount of chakra, it is really no weaker than Uchiha Shisui when Susan's second form is turned on. The problem is not with the 7 swordsmen, but with the 7 ninja swords. Hyuga Hazashi turns Baian's pupil power to ultimate. Under the insight of Baian's pupil power, he clearly saw that the 7 ninja swords were sealed with 7-tailed beasts, like 7 Jinchuriki. As the 7 knives released the seal, the chakra inside the ninja knife poured onto the 7 knives along the connection between the hilt and the hand like a torrent. It was the 7 knives that gave them 7 such amazing chakra. Uchiha Shisui opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Although his insight was not as good as Hyuga Hazashi's white eyes, he also saw the clues of Miss Shinobi's sudden burst of such an astonishing chakra. I didn't expect Miss Shinobi to hide such a trick. But they are too tolerant, right? If Miss Shinobi's 7 swords were used in this way in the previous 2 ninja world wars, the casualties caused to us would be unimaginable. Quote. Tsunade looked puzzled. Maybe it's not that they can bear it, nor that they want to bear it, but that this generation of Miss Shinobi Kadao itself doesn't know this secret. Otherwise, with the cruel, selfish, and crazy style that Kirito has always been, it is impossible to endure until now. Think about it, why did they show this strength? Quote. Naru Ju Fangfo thought of something, and his eyes suddenly shifted to Karl. Lord Karl, Orochimaru, Tsunade, Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hazashi, and Yamanaka suddenly exclaimed in unison. At this moment, not only the 5 of them, but also many delicate Konoha shinobi practitioners understood. There is such a thing. Faced with the sudden change of the 7 people, Karl also showed a hint of surprise on his face. But it was just an accident. Even if the group of 7 is like 7 human-tailed beasts without tails at this time, the strength of chakra exuded is something that even ordinary cage-level powerhouses cannot possess, but that's all. Ha ha ha, our strength should surprise you. Iron Fist. The Black Hole saw the fleeting surprise on Karl's face, and his laughter grew wilder. This is Balian's idea. Karl looked at the ninja sword in the hands of the 7 swordsmen with great interest. These 7 ninja knives are really no different from the ones he has encountered before. Capabilities, however, are very different from what they used to be. As expected, he is an old monster who has lived for 2 ages. The pupils of Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost shrank slightly. Before today, even he didn't know that the ninja sword in his hand, Samahata, still had such power hidden. But the man in front of him could tell at a glance whose handwriting it was. Is this the observation haki that Third Mizukage Sama is talking about? Wooly Jinba and the others also tensed up. If Iron Fist hadn't come to the land of water in person, they would never have known that their ninja sword had such a secret until their death. However, Karl knew it at a glance. This immediately reminded them of one of the 3 legendary abilities that Third Mizukage had told them about the ninja hero Karl before they set off. Observation haki. It's not that this old man looks down on the 7 of you and Miss Shinobi, but that the entire land of water has this talent, and the only one who can prepare this great gift for this old man across an era is that fellow Balian. As for other Mizukages, other fog ninjas really don't have this ability. It seems that when he was defeated by the old man, not only was he not reconciled, but he was not even discouraged. Instead, he realized his shame and was brave. Quote. Karl sighed slightly, his eyes revealing a hint of anticipation. Old Mizukage, who was in the same era as himself, prepared a ninja knife for himself in an era. He was really curious about how much surprise Balian could bring him. That's right, although the ninja swords are driven by the 7 swordsmen, in his eyes, this so-called Miss Shinobi 7 Swords challenge has become a challenge that Shirorin has prepared to challenge himself again after decades. The so-called 7 swordsmen are just representatives of the dead Balian. Chapter 66 First Mizukage, let the 7 of us say hello to you on his behalf, seeking flowers for evaluation. First Mizukage, let the 7 of us greet you on his behalf. Loquat Shazang and Ziguashan Puffer Ghost looked at each other. Accompanied by a unanimous chilling cold drink, the chakra that was roughly used on the 7 of them suddenly condensed and turned into 7 different chakra giants, entrenched on top of the 7 swords. White Lotus. It is the first Mizukage in the mouth of the 7 swordsmen. It is also the only mist ninja in the history of Mist Shinobi that Tekken can see more. At this time, Bai Lian, who is the most talented Mizukage of all generations, is also worthy of Karl's extra glances at him. After all, First Mizukage is dead, but today, after an era, with the help of the contemporary Mist Shinobi, he was given a big gift to Karl. Water-style Great Waterfall Technique. Loquat Shazang, Li Shuang Xuan Wan roared. Originally, when they untied the ninja sword seal and released the majestic chakra that had been hidden in their respective ninja swords for decades, the huge lake that was blown away not only gathered again, but also emerged more powerful than before. Huge flow of water. With the seal of the 2, a majestic water-style chakra was released. It was more majestic than a dam without an embankment or a tsunami rising, and the violent water flow carried an amazing impact, directly sending the 1,000-meter terrain was rewritten, and then it impacted on Karl mightily. Boom. Facing the water-style torrent whose scale surpassed the profound truth, Karl put one hand in his pocket, raised the other, and stretched his 5 fingers forward. Just when the water flow that could easily flatten a small mountain was about to touch his palm, it collided with an invisible wall, and instantly split into 2 halves, making it impossible to break through this layer of defense. Even if it is water-style ninjutsu that can rewrite the terrain, it still cannot shake Karl's armament haki. It's not over yet. Iron Fist. Just when Karl single-handedly crushed the water-style torrent season that surpassed the scale of the esoteric level, like a natural disaster, the seal of Loquat 10 possessions and Tongsauyabiter was also completed. Water-style Water Dragon Bomb Technique. There are more than 40 seals of Mizudu ninjutsu, and 200s of meters long, mighty water dragons rise from the ground, like 2 real dragons sleeping deep in the land of water, but now they are awakened come over, and bite Karl hard from the other side of the field. This level of water is only suitable for children to play with water guns. Karl suppressed the surging water-style torrent with one hand, and opened his other hand like a claw to grab it from the air. Chi. The 2 mountain-like huge water dragons stagnated suddenly, as if their heads were held by an invisible titan's hand, they couldn't move forward at all. This is the funeral I prepared for you. At this moment, the roar of the black hole and the roar of thunder came together like a bomb explosion. The sky of the battlefield has been covered by a thundercloud covering a kilometer range at some point. Lightning-style thunder burial. As the black hole swung the thunder knife a pillar of lightning that was so huge that it could connect the sky and the earth, supporting the land and sky of the returning water crashed down. When Carl was pinched by water dragons and water currents, he fell from the sky in a destructive posture and submerged Carl's body fiercely. The terrifying lightning-style chakra crazily vented, instantly triggering a lightning shock wave that tore through the water and shook the ground. Under the ripples of thunder and lightning, even Orochimaru and Konoha shinobi who retreated 1,000 meters away, as well as mist shinobi on the other side, felt the ground shaking, and felt hot and suffocating. A wave of air was coming. This is simply a battle between tailed beasts. The ninjas and samurai in the Sengoku era were all monsters, and none of them were normal people. It's really hard for me to imagine how His Excellency Carl can suppress so many monsters from the Sengoku era to the point where they can't lift their heads for an entire era. Everyone was stunned to see the thunder snakes snaking and circling on the battlefield like giant pythons, and watching the waves soaring into the sky one after another. Even Orochimaru and others who witnessed Carl blowing up Susanoo were shocked by the battle before them. Is this still the Mist Shinobi 7 swords they are familiar with? In the past, all 7 knives were released, which made ninjas from all over the world fear. Even if a contemporary 5-cage level powerhouse is besieged by 7 people at the same time, there is a possibility of falling. But that is the battle of normal human beings after all. Unlike now, the 7 humanoid-tailed beasts without tails are squandering their destructive power recklessly. However, compared to the talent of First Mizukage and the power displayed by Mist Shinobi, Orochimaru and Tsunade are even more shocked and horrified. These monsters couldn't hold their heads up and couldn't breathe. It's amazing to be just a follower left by First Mizukage. What about the contemporary First Kazekage, First Tsuchikage, and First Raikage? What kind of demeanor are they? What about Konoha's god of ninja, First Hokage, and ninja repairer Uchiha Madara, who stand above the 4 shadows of the first generation, and who, together with Carl, were called the 3 masters of Sengoku by the ninja world of that era? These 2 are also legend-level existences, how much more amazing and stunning than Bai Lian and the others from the first generation. Chapter 67 The Strongest 7 Swords in History. 1 per person, first order for the first update. This is the strength of our generation Mist Shinobi 7 swords. That old guy Iron Fist should be dead, right? That can't be done. He must take a deep breath. We are still waiting for him to tell us before he dies how strong our generation of 7 swords is. The 7 members of Loquat Shazang gathered together, looking towards the center that was engulfed by the lightning beam and the majestic water flow. At this time, they were carrying ninja swords, and surrounded by the majestic chakra giant beast, one by one became more arrogant than the other. The power left behind by First Mizukage Hakurin fascinated them, but at the same time made them defiant. Slap. However, this kind of superciliousness, this arrogance that regards the number 1 hero in the ninja world as nothing, followed the sudden clear and rhythmic applause from the center of the explosion covered by smoke, and it froze instantly. All the 7 swordsmen looked towards the direction of the applause with a stiff expression, and saw that no hair was damaged, even the suit was not wet, and the damaged Carl patted his hands while walking in the billowing smoke. Tisk tisk tisk, this guy Balian is only 410, it's really not his fault. People are dead, but they can please the old to this extent after an era. As expected, it was First Mizukage who was only 2 levels behind the old man at that time. The old man has been out of the mountain for so long, and he can only have so much fun with Mist Shinobi. Quote. Carl smiled brightly while admiring. A-hole, what does this old guy think of our Mist Shinobi 7 swords? Amusing his toys. Wooly Shiba and Hihalea were so angry that their faces were livid. The only 2 who didn't do anything just now, Suiguashan Puffer Ghost and Chojiro stepped on the water and disappeared in place as if teleporting. Almost at the same time, the 2 appeared on Carl's left and right sides at the same time. Flounder Liberation. Chojiro did not perform ninjutsu, but raised the liberated ninja sword Flounder with both hands, condescendingly slammed down on Carl angrily. The moment he swung the Flounder, crowding around him, the giant beast completely formed by chakra crazily merged into the double knife Flounder. But in the blink of an eye, the double knife Flounder in his hand not only swelled several times than before, but also released a huge circle of chakra light balls from the surface of the double knife Flounder, rolling down towards the top of Carl's head. Samahata Spirit Cut. At the same time, the Chishin Puffer Ghost, who jumped over to the other side of Carl, also waved the masseter muscle in his hand. Although his shark muscles did not grow as big as Chojiro's Flounder, but the moment he swung the knife, the shark-like chakra monster covering his body immediately opened 2 rows of chakra's sharp teeth, and bit Carl with 1 bite. Iron Body. With a bang, and at the same time withstood the full force of the 2 7 swordsmen, the ground under Carl's feet slammed into the ground, not only collapsed 10 meters deep, but the powerful chakra vented, directly pressing the ground out of a nearly 100-meter high. It looks like a giant god-tier crater that was hit by a meteorite. The big gift that Bai Lian prepared for this old man is a bit worth seeing, but it's a pity, the person who mastered them is too unbearable. Carl stood firmly in the center of the deep pit, and endured the full blows of the 2 ninja swords without moving. No. Impossible. Chojiro's eyes widened, and just as a scream of disbelief came from his mouth, a right hand had jumped over his Flounder, and then a finger tore the chakra monster that tore through his body. Finger pistol. BFBC. Boom. One finger sank into his heart. Chojiro's body froze, followed by a laser-like translucent shock wave visible to the naked eye, penetrating all the way from his chest to his back, and finally through his entire body, leaving a bowl-sized hole on his upper body. After the bloody hole, it blasted straight into the air. The shock wave caused by the powerful finger force flew hundreds of meters high, creating a huge columnar gaseous fog channel in the thick fog that permeated the battlefield, before it gradually dissipated. Chojiro. Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost's pupils constricted, and he looked at Chojiro, who was alive and kicking 1 second and turned into a corpse the next second, and fell in front of his eyes with disbelief. Fly finger pistol. However, Carl didn't even look at the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost who was close at hand, but raised his hand and pointed at the air in front of him. Puff. A crescent-shaped shock wave flew 100 meters away in an instant, and there was a sound of bullets piercing through the body on the originally empty water. Immediately afterwards, the air gradually became thicker, and the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost slowly emerged. See. Observation Hockey. The Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost murmured, and then fell on the turbulent water in awe. The scarlet blood flowed out, and the lake under his feet was washed away by the flowing water before it was dyed red. At the same time, another Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost standing in front of Carl also turned into a pool of water and merged into the lake under his feet. Are you kidding me? Suzukiyama Fuguki and Chojiro just died like that. The layer of chakra on their body surface is not for decoration. Even S-rank ninjutsu can resist it. Mist Shinobi 7 cuts down to Mist Shinobi 5. The faces of the surviving 5 swordsmen, Loquat-Shazang and others became uglier and uglier. Obviously, the power of Iron Fist completely exceeded their expectations. Before setting off from Kurigakure, it's not that the 7 swordsmen didn't think about the possibility of defeat, and even the 7 of them felt that this battle was more defeat than victory. After all, the opponent is the strongest man in the Sengoku era, and even the Ninja Village era. But even if the 7 of them thought about it, they would never have imagined that they used first Mizukage Balian's backhand, and the 7 strongest 7 knives in the history of 7 Mist Shinobi were in front of Carl, and one of them would hit Carl. Chapter 68. Is this how you greet the old man on behalf of Balian? The second update asks for the first order. Chojiro, who was holding double swords and flounder, was hit by Carl, and he was gone on the spot. The Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost holding a big knife and shark muscle left a body of water in place. The body just fled 100 meters away and was beaten, and the person disappeared on the spot. This vulnerable performance is not what Kurigakure's strongest 7 swordsmen in history should have, but more like a student who has not yet graduated from a ninja school. Shave. At the moment when the remaining 5 swordsmen lost their minds slightly due to the death of their companions, Carl, who was 100 meters away from the 5 of them, had already rolled up a sonic boom and disappeared on the spot. Before the sharp, ear-piercing sonic boom rippled, he had already appeared in front of Pippa Shazang. Is that the speed a human can have? Loquat Shazang's pupils constricted. If it was him normally, he would have died before he even had time to react. But now, after absorbing the gigantic chakra sealed in the beheading sword, his strength has risen in a straight line. He was already good at melee combat. Facing Carl's meteor-like speed, he barely raised the beheading knife across his body. Boom. However, under the gaze of Loquat Zhang's pupils that were quickly occupied by the color of astonishment, Carl who dodged in front of him had no intention of avoiding the beheading sword at all, and raised his hand to punch the beheading sword. Click. There was a sound of glass shattering, and the front was hardened. The beheading knife in Carl's fist snapped like paper. Without the obstruction of the beheading sword, Carl's fist sank into the Loquat's abdomen like a meteorite. Boom. Once the terrifying power erupted, a huge shock wave penetrated his body, not only crushing the internal organs in his body, but also opening a scary hole in his abdomen. Are we actually challenging such a monster? Loquat Shazang murmured, then his knees softened, and he knelt down on the lake. As the flame of life was completely extinguished, his body immediately fell into the lake and was washed away by the current. 10 Zhang Loquats. Another Mist Shinobi 7 swords was taken away by Carl in full view. Haihei Leia, Wuli Jinba, Yi Zunchuanwan, and Tongsao Yebai who woke up from the trance had their eyes tearing apart, their faces were full of anger, and their hearts were also terrified. After unlocking the seal of the ninja sword, even the weakest of the Mist Shinobi 7 swords can single out the cage level strong. But now there are 3 Mist Shinobi who can't even bear Carl's attack with 7 swords, and are killed on the spot. Thunder Burial, Thunder Feast. After witnessing Carl's ferocious power, the Black Ho Thunder Ya didn't dare to give Carl a chance to get close. He immediately swung Thunder Saber Ya, and released dozens of terrifying electric snakes with a length of 100 meters under bursts of bangs. He slashed straight at Carl. What are you still doing? Hurry up and come over and kill this old guy. One by one stupidly gave us 7 knives to collect the corpses, so that we can be our position horses. The other 3 ninja swordsmen took advantage of the Black Ho Thunder Tooth to release the lightning to block Carl, and they all yelled angrily at Shinwu at the edge of the lake. Tempest Kick. Looking at the ferocious electric snakes that flashed towards them, Carl's face sank like water, and he lifted his foot to sweep away. Sheila. Air Fangfu couldn't bear his terrifying foot strength, and let out a mournful howl. At the same time, he kicked out a slashing wave that spanned 560 meters in the void. It first cut off dozens of electric snakes that were coming towards him, and then slashed at the Black Ho with unabated momentum. Thunder Tooth. Ask for flowers. Damn it, I finally know why this old guy keeps 9-tailed beasts as pets. The Black Ho Leia turned pale. 1 foot across the air for hundreds of meters, it's like cutting off everything. In front of such chopping waves, the body replacement technique and body flicker technique are all useless. After the substitute and the blink, the person is still within the attack range of Tempest Kick, and the substitute is a ghost, and the blink is a fart. Ninja Lightning Armor. In desperation, the Black Ho Thunder Fang could only summon the thunder and lightning, and merge with the giant chakra beast covering his body, turning into a huge thunder beast armor. Click. However, the thunder armor had only just formed, and the slashing waves that came across the sky had already taken a destructive attitude. Under the desperate eyes of the Black Ho Leia, he blocked his thunder armor and the thunder saber Fang in front of him, and his body was cut in half together. Run. As the fourth seven swordsman was killed with a single blow, the three Lee Sage Kushimaru were terrified on the spot. The pride of Mist Shinobi's seven swords, the gauntlet, and the will of water were all left behind by them. Karl chopped off the lightning and shattered the ground with his hands and feet. The power like the living sage of six paths completely shattered all their fighting intentions. Let the minds of the three of them go blank so that there is only one escape word left, and they don't even care about the 1,000 fog ninjas they brought. At this moment, the remaining three swordsmen just wanted to escape as far as possible. Is this the way you seven swordsmen by Lien greets the old man? Seeing the auspicious three treasures of Sa Yazi running wildly, Karl jumped forward, stepped on the void with both feet, and climbed to a height of 100 meters like walking on flat ground. His 5 fingers clenched into fists without haste, and then punched in the air. Fist Bone Meteorite Knife. Chapter 69. Did Grandpa really fight him? First order for the third update. Stepping on the moonwalk, Karl, who was standing in the air, threw his right fist straight out, like an eagle hitting the sky. Vigorous and violent fist power poured down like the water of the Milky Way. A terrifying giant fist, the size of a Hokage rock, shining bright white light, like a god or a Buddha, bombarded the battlefield like a meteor falling from heaven. Boom. Under the eyes of reverent gods looking up, there was a loud noise that was even more deafening than a thunderstorm, and the shocking waves that could only be caused by a missile explosion, mixed with smoke and dust that rushed straight into the sky, covered the lake thousands of meters in an instant, surging like a tide. The power of the fist can shake the entire kingdom of water, causing the entire battlefield to shake violently. At the same time, under the overwhelming pressure of the 057 air wave, the turbulent water flow immediately rose from the ground, directly setting off waves one after another in the land without oceans. The 100-meter wave that can't be calmed down for a long time. This is the real fist bone meteorite. Once in the land of Earth, I witnessed Karl pull up mountains and rivers, lift up a mountain and crush hundreds of Orochimaru, the son of Rock Shinobi and Tsuchikage, and Tsunade stared blankly at the place where the white light fist fell. No wonder Lord Karl is called Iron Fist by the ninjas and samurai of the Sengoku era. Although Uzumaki Kushina, Uchiha Shisui and Konoha Shinobi, unlike Orochimaru and Tsunade, had witnessed Karl lift a mountain, they did not affect the spiritual impact of Karl's world-shaking fist. This is the fist that crushed Susanoo, the perfect body of the ancestor beyond Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Fugaku watched the smoke and dust dissipate and the waves subsided before appearing on the battlefield, with huge fist marks like sinkholes, and a pair of scarlet Mangekyo Sharingan filled with shock and awe. Uchiha is a family that worships, even obsesses with the pursuit of power. And Karl's punch just now clearly explained what absolute power is. Even though Uchiha had many grudges with Iron Fist, it still couldn't change his respect for Karl's punch. After all, this is the Iron Fist that crushed Uchiha's calendar. Bang bang bang. Just as every ninja in the audience was shaken and moved by Karl's punch just now, a burst of footsteps suddenly sounded from the air. When everyone heard this, they moved their eyes from the fixed frame on the fist print yonking to the sky with difficulty. Under the watchful eyes of all the ninjas, Karl stepped on the void with both feet, walking down from the sky step by step, as if he was going downstairs. Finally saw Moonwalk, one of the legendary 6 forms of Superman. Orochimaru fixedly stared at Karl's figure descending from the sky, his tawny snake eyes were both shocked and confused. This is not scientific. Without chakra, let alone ninjutsu, can you actually walk in the air? This is not the first time he has encountered such a subversion of the 3 views. Since he started to collect all the information about Iron Fist's past, his 3 views have been impacted time and time again and subverted repeatedly. All this is because he found that Karl's taijutsu does not conform to the science of the ninja world at all. Take the legendary 6 forms of Superman as an example. Finger pistol, shave and iron body are considered to be a face of science in the ninja world, but when it comes to Tempest Kick, Moonwalk, and paper arts that he has never seen with his own eyes, it is simply serious violation of the chakra system. Who can walk on air with 2 feet? How can anyone come up with a slashing wave like a slashing attack with only the strength of his feet? Did my great-grandfather really fight Karl Uncle? Tsunade looked at Karl's back, and an idea popped up in his heart involuntarily. How did my great-grandfather, Senju Hashirama, live from the Sengoku era to the Ninja Village era, and establish Konohagakure? It's really hard for her to imagine that her one-sided, silly-looking grandfather not only fought against Karl Uncle, but also has the ability to beat Uchiha Madara, ranking second among Sengoku's 3 masters, only inferior to Karl Uncle. If it weren't for the battle between ninja heroes and ninja gods, it had been widely circulated as early as the Sengoku era, and it was even recorded in major ninja families. Strong Hokage, like water. It is indeed Balian's handwriting. Karl ignored the reverent gazes coming from all directions, but walked straight towards the burial site of the 3 auspicious treasures. He had experienced too many such gazes in the Sengoku era. Compared with everyone's awe, He is more interested in making the 7 swordsmen suddenly reborn, and releasing the 7 ninja swords like Buddha tails and beasts. I didn't expect you to be able to please this old man so many years after your death. Carl picked up a blunt knife on the ground, and looked at 3.1 carefully. Although the knife had been smashed to pieces by his punch just now, he could still feel the presence of chakra with White Lotus under careful perception with observation haki. Your Excellency Carl, you seem to be very concerned about these 7 ninja knives. Although the strength of the 7 swordsmen was indeed very strong just now, I can see that they just used the chakra sealed in the ninja sword. This kind of improvement is not only short-lived, but also requires a long time to prepare. After using it once, it will take at least several years, or even more than 10 years, to accumulate chakra if you want to use it next time. Quote. At this time, Yin Shiwan's voice suddenly passed from behind. Chapter 70 Orochimaru. My grandfather's surname is not Senju, first order for Chapter 4. It can't be said that I care, I can only say that I think about others a little bit. After coming out of the mountain this time, people of the same age as the old man have basically died. I didn't expect to encounter something left by Balian in the country of water. Quote. Carl suppressed his thoughts, then glanced at Orochimaru, noticing the burning gaze in the depths of his snake pupils, and there was a hint of playfulness on his face. Want to? Carl swung the broken blunt knife point Dugua in his hand. Think. Orochimaru wanted to say that he didn't want it, but after realizing the existence of observation haki, he immediately suppressed that little thought and nodded honestly. The legendary observation haki, not only the Uchiha family has records, but Konoha high-ranking officials also have records. As the 4th Hokage candidate, he knows that it is extremely stupid to lie in front of the Iron Fist with observation haki. Take it if you want it. 15. When Carl heard this, the smile on his face became more playful. This, Sir Carl, is it really for me? Orochimaru was stunned after taking the blunt knife that Carl suddenly threw over him. His grandfather's surname is not Senju, picture Hashirama. Orochimaru wouldn't be surprised if Tsunade begged and got the ninja sword from Carl. But this piece of pie fell on him for no reason. His first reaction was to be stunned, he had been hit by an illusion, and his second reaction was that there was a conspiracy. You know, the 7 ninja knives are really tasteless to Carl, even children's toys. It can be seen that Miss Shinobi has seen the strength shown just now, not to mention Orochimaru, even Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui, who have never had anything other than Sharingan, looked at the 7 ninja swords with burning eyes. It's just that these 7 ninja knives are Carl's spoils of war, so they chose to keep silent. If it's not enough, take away the pile of toys on the ground, as long as you think you can hold it. Carl looked at Orochimaru with a wide smile. Orochimaru, who was already in shock, couldn't help but look at Carl. Immediately, Rishwang's red pupils met his eyes directly. This ninja sword, no, even the 7 ninja swords are not allowed. Carl's red pupils made Orochimaru's heart skip a beat. Although he couldn't detect any problem, his reason and instinct told him that there was something wrong with the 7 ninja knives. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and endured the pain, and suddenly thrust the blunt knife in his hand into the ground. Haven't studied living corpse reincarnation, has the soul fully controlled the desire for quality? Taking in Orochimaru's restraint, Carl smiled. If it's Orochimaru after starting reincarnation, it's hard to say. Damage to the soul not only weakens the resistance to illusions, but also affects the mind. Carl uncle, what would happen if Orochimaru really got the 7 ninja swords? Seeing the scene of Orochimaru resolutely abandoning the blunt knife, Tsunade couldn't help asking. It's not that good, it's just Sannin downsizing. As soon as Carl said this, the expressions of the two changed in horror. Orochimaru, in particular, was even more terrified. He knew that his grandfather's surname was not Senju. Is it that serious? Tsunade looked a little stiff. Just now she thought about asking Carl uncle for a ninja sword to play with after the war is over. Do you think that Hakuren left these 7 ninja swords to benefit the descendants of Miss Shinobi? Carl said coldly. Is not it? He is the first Mizukage who established Kurigakure. Tsunade murmured, while Orochimaru beside him was thoughtful. Think about what village Kurigakure is called. Think about how those 7 kids with knives introduced themselves just now. Think about why Balian was thrown into the country of water by the old man to eat fog. Carl said every word. Village of Blood Mist. We are Mist Shinobi 7 swords, the most cruel, cold-blooded, and most insidious mist ninjas in Kurigakure. It is rumored that first Mizukage did not want the Sengoku era to end, and wanted the ninja world to continue to maintain the flames of war. That's why you were thrown to the land of water far away from the inland of the ninja world by Mr. Carl. Tsunade and Orochimaru pondered for a moment, then immediately replied. No, the most cruel, cold-blooded, most insidious and cunning Wurin in the entire Kurigakure is not Mist Shinobi 7 swords, but first Mizukage White Lotus. Suddenly, Naruto on the side made a loud noise. In terms of IQ inheritance, Nara's family is really stable. 330. Carl heard Naruto's analysis, and immediately gave him an appreciative look. Although Tsunade, Orochimaru and others also noticed something was wrong, and even guessed a lot of clues, but only Naruto's words pointed to the crux of the problem. According to what Patriarch Luju said, then these 7 swords are not at all the Mist Shinobi 7 swords that first Mizukage left for this generation in order to deal with Lord Carl. Uchiha Fugaku's face darkened. Makes the scalp tingle for all Konoha shinobi enthusiasts. In a trance, every Konoha shinobi fan seems to see that there is a horrible behind-the-scenes man who extended from the Sengoku era to this ninja village era. It's true that the 7 ninja swords are used to deal with old people, but if they are left to the 7 swordsmen of this generation, then it is not necessarily the case. 27. As soon as Carl's meaningful words fell, Tsunade, Orochimaru and others couldn't help but look at the 7 ninja swords scattered on the ground. After witnessing the powerful strength of the 7 swordsmen, no matter who they are, when they look at these ninja swords, they all look like they are eager for it. But at this time, when they looked at the 7 ninja swords again, they seemed to be looking at a scourge. Chapter 71 First Mizukage, the White Lotus who returns from the dead. Silence. Because of Carl's words, the battlefield of Nuoda became silent for a moment, and needles could be heard. Whether it was Master Orochimaru or the Kirin who wanted to escape and snatch back the 7 ninja swords, they all stood still. At this time, fearful, curious, uneasy, and apprehensive eyes kept sweeping back and forth on the 7 ninja swords scattered all over the place, but no one went up to touch these ninja swords, not even a step closer. It seems that as long as someone gets closer, these ninja knives will turn into scourges and swallow the approaching people directly. Okay, Balian, how long do you want to hide under the old eyes? Or, do you think that after so many years, the old man is so old that he can't even see your little trick? The atmosphere of the battlefield was already filled with an extremely uncomfortable conspiracy atmosphere. With Carl's shocking words suddenly, the conspiracy, weirdness, and goosebumps suddenly became more than 10 times stronger. No way. Tsunade's beautiful eyes narrowed, and her body tensed up involuntarily. First Mizukage, who died before the First Ninja World War, is still alive. Uchiha Shisui couldn't believe it. Are these people from the Sengoku era all monsters? Uchiha Fugaku looked serious. For Carl, he wouldn't doubt it at all. Since the man in front of him said so, it is very likely that First Mizukage, who was only inferior to the 3 masters in the Sengoku era, has not died yet. With a method and form that he can't understand, it has survived until this era. Master First Mizukage is not dead. After the death of Miss Shinobi Kadao, Gojo Yagura took over the command of Kionjiren with his extraordinary prestige. However, at this time, the almost default 4th Mizukage looked at the 7 ninja swords on the ground with an uncertain expression. Miss Shinobi 7 Swords seals the secret of Balian's power, and as a candidate for Mizukage, he also knows it. But that's all. The deeper secrets behind Kurigaku's 7 ninja knives, he only learned now. If Tekken's words are true, what does First Mizukage think of Shinobu? Thinking of this, Yagura's complexion suddenly became extremely ugly. Is a shadow who doesn't trust the ninja of his ninja village, is he still a shadow? What is the purpose of handing over the 7 ninja knives to the elite of Mist Ninja? Clang clang. Just when the Konoha shinobi and Mist Ninjas on the battlefield were startled by Carl's words, after losing their master, they were scattered all over the ground like corpses. The knife suddenly moved. Even with Carl's words in front, the changes in the 7 ninja knives still make everyone feel uneasy. Iron Fist. The next scene directly stunned everyone except Dan. At the beginning, the 7 ninja knives that were just shaking on the ground gradually burst into light. Immediately afterwards, 7 ninja knives floated up into the air. In the next second, surrounded by 7 ninja knives, a vague, old figure slowly appeared. From the translucent blur to the lifelike appearance of a living person, it only takes 2 or 3 seconds. The pale hair, the beard as long as the hair, and the hideous scar and 2 rows of sharp teeth on the muddy left eye all told the ninjas present the identity of this figure. It's really First Mizukage-sama. How is this possible? Master Balian is hiding in the 7 ninja knives. When the one and led by Yagura saw this figure, they couldn't help but exclaimed. But immediately after, their expressions became a little ugly. The emergence of First Mizukage has proved that what Tekken said is true. But this also means that First Mizukage left these 7 ninja swords to Kurigaku, which is very likely to be uneasy and kind, at least for Mizukage who holds ninja swords, it is not a good thing. Ha ha ha, are you finally willing to come out? Carl not only didn't feel oppressed and dignified, but couldn't help laughing. An era has passed, and the people and things in the ninja world are so strange to him. But now, he actually saw old acquaintance. Regardless of whether this old acquaintance has malicious intentions or not, it will not affect his mood. As for Bai Lian really having malicious intentions, backhand hammering to death. Before that, Balian's unexpected appearance would only make him feel the long-lost joy. You are indeed one of the few people besides Hashirama and Madara who can be looked at more by the old man. After so many years, they still haven't died. Quote. Seeing the living white lotus so close at hand, the smile on Carl's face grew stronger. Citrus Yagura and the others couldn't help but look at each other when they saw Carl, who was smiling and happier than himself and others. If they weren't Mist Shinobi, wouldn't they are they already familiar with the grievances and resentments between their first Mizukage and Tekken, and they all thought that the relationship between these two people would be very close in the Sengoku era. Without you being my companion in the Pure Land, how could this old man go away with peace of mind? After Bai Lian's gaze fell on Carl, her expression remained unchanged, but a ferocious killing intent gradually emerged. What? Just came back and wanted to fight the old man? Don't be ridiculous, you were not the opponent of the old man when you were alive, but now you are half dead, and it is even more impossible to defeat the old man. If you don't want to go to the Pure Land to eat the soil just after you start your career, then the old man advises you to do it yourself. Carl crossed his arms, shaking his head and laughing. In the Sengoku era, he could beat the White Lotus at its peak to the land of water to eat the fog, and now he can still send the undead White Lotus to the pure land to eat the soil. Chapter 72. The old man can send you to the land of water to eat fog, and can also send you to the pure land to eat soil. First order for the 6th update. Advise the old man to take care of himself. Iron Fist, do you think this is possible? It was you who ruined the old man's hegemony, and made the old man spend his whole life in the land of water, a place where birds don't shit. If I don't crush you to ashes, I won't be able to rest in peace even if I die. Bai Lian's face turned cold, and a shockingly powerful chakra was released like a storm. Even if there is no body, only the form of chakra remains. As one of the 5 Kages of the first generation, the sense of oppression he exudes still makes the ninjas of this era terrified. Even Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Yagura, the leaders of the ninja village era, and Kage-level powerhouses comparable to the contemporary 5 Kages, still feel strong oppression from Balian. You not only ruined the old man's Sengoku era, but also ruined the old man's ambition and hegemony. If it weren't for you, what I built would not be Kurigakure, but Konohagakure. What I'm stepping on now is not the kingdom of water, but the kingdom of fire. It's you, who ruined everything about this old man. Quote. Bai Lian pointed at Carl, her cold voice was full of creepy complaints. Look at what you said, it seems that you can beat Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara without encountering an old man. Carl picked his nostrils and curled his lips nonchalantly. When Bai Lian, who was originally aggressive and had a ferocious face, heard this, her expression froze in an instant. Tsunade, Orochimaru, Uchiha Fugaku and others even snickered. Quote. Unlike the ninjas on Konoha's side, Yagura and the others couldn't help covering their faces when they heard Carl's teasing of Balian. There is no way, there is nothing wrong with Iron Fist's words. Even if Carl hadn't been met, Bai Lian could still only be beaten, and the so-called grand plans and great achievements could still only come to naught. Whether it was Senju Hashirama, who was eager to seek peace, or Uchiha Madara at the time, they would never let Balian get involved in the most fertile land in the ninja world, the land of fire. You should be lucky that the person you meet is old. Although BFFF was hammered and lost an eye, at least he can still live in the country of water for a few years. If you met Senju Hashirama or Uchiha Madara at that time, not only would you not be able to eat the fog, but even your ashes would be thrown to the pure land. Quote. Carl didn't care that Bai Lian was getting more and more ugly, with an expression of wanting to choose someone to eat, and said to himself. Hearing what you said, I would like to thank you, Carl, for allowing me to live in the land of water in my later years. Bai Lian stared at Carl with a gloomy expression, and with him floating in the air, it looked like a ghost revived. If you are not satisfied, I can give you a ride this time. When you were alive, the old man could send you to the land of water to eat fog. After you died, the old man could also send you to the pure land to eat the soil. All you have to do is open your mouth. Quote. Seeing Bai Lian's resentful expression, the excitement of reuniting with the old acquaintance disappeared in Carl's heart, and the thoughts of reminiscing about the old days disappeared. You are still the same as before, so arrogant that you don't take anyone seriously. It seems that my first Mizukage is not worth mentioning in your eyes. Quote. Bai Lian's eyes became more and more gloomy. It is this kind of attitude that looks down on the ninja world and regards all ninjas and samurai in the Sengoku era as nothing. Carl's appearance at this time is exactly the same as that of when he was blasted with a hammer and then thrown to the kingdom of water. No, the old man didn't mean to target you. In fact, apart from Hashirama, you 4 shadows of the first generation are all rubbish in the eyes of the old. Quote. Carl shook his head. First generation 5 shadows, there are 4 shadows that can make him see a few more times, but it is only in the eyes of his heart. Looking at the Sengoku era, there are only 2.5 who can really make him look different. One is Senju Hashirama, the god of ninjas, and the other is Uchiha Madara, the god of ninjas. The other half is Senju Tobirama, who has forbidden technique all over his body except water style. That's really a pity, because you Iron Fist are about to die at the hands of what you call trash. Before Bai Lian finished speaking, several seals had already been formed on her hands. Boom. The 7 ninja knives released the Buddha and opened the gates and dams, and 7 huge chakras suddenly emerged, pouring into his body, making his originally somewhat illusory, unsolidified body like a ghost like a Buddha become almost like a living body. At the same time, the corpses of Loquat Ten Kang, Zigwashan Puffer Ghost, Tongsao Yabaden and others who had already been dead on the spot twitched one after another. Immediately afterwards, 7 giant chakra beasts of different colors suddenly jumped out, and then sank into Balian's body at the same time. First Mizukage, who was originally only in the shape of chakra, after absorbing the chakra of the 7 ninja swords, and the chakra giant flying out of the body of the mist shinobi 7 swords, grew bones, flesh, meridians, and internal organs at an alarming rate. As chakra merged with the body, an aura that only belonged to strangers slowly emanated from Bai Lian's body. He's fully alive. Look, the body of mist shinobi 7 swords, and those 7 swords. I seem to understand what's going on. Tsunade, Orochimaru and the others looked at the White Lotus who had returned from the dead, and then looked at the 7 ninja swordsmen who had no bones left, only a layer of pale ashes remained, and 2 ministers suddenly appeared in their hearts. Forbidden technique. Whether it is the huge chakra stored by the 7 ninja knives, or the 7 elite mist ninjas that have been controlled, they are all necessary conditions for forming forbidden technique. As Carl said, nothing benefits the next generation of mist shinobi. Some simply make mist shinobi offspring pawns to resurrect themselves. This is one of the first-generation 5 Kages from the Sengoku era. Kurigakure is the cruelest, coldest, most insidious and cunning first Mizukage ever. White Lotus. Chapter 73 Might Wear. A student of ninja heroes. The 7th update asks for the first order. Something's wrong. What the hell did first Mizukage do to Miss Shinobi Nanachi? If a person can be revived with only 7 corpses, then this forbidden technique is too childish. Although Yagura is not as knowledgeable as Orochimaru, as a candidate for Mizukage, he still has knowledge of forbidden technique. Although Miss Shinobi's body was sucked into white ashes exuding a withered breath by first Mizukage Baron after his death, his intuition and reason told him that these 7 ninja sword beings must have been tampered with by Baron. Even if he is willing to believe that the moral character of first Mizukage is so noble that after the death of Miss Shinobi Kadao, he used their corpses to resurrect, he still can't believe that only the corpses of 7 Miss Shinobi elite ninjas can make a first-generation level Mizukage revived. The forbidden technique that reverses life and death, if it was that simple, there would be no Mizukage dead in Yuanian village. Just 7 corpses can revive one person, and it's also Balian, one of the 5 shadows of the first generation. Does the forbidden technique that can reverse life and death only need to pay such an insignificant price? It's too cheap. Orochimaru stared at the White Lotus whose body transformed from the chakra form into a living person after absorbing the chakra of Miss Shinobi's 7 knives, and frowned slightly. Obviously, he and Go Futian had a deal. Forbidden technique, although possesses powerful power, is dangerous, and the price paid is also very high. Especially the forbidden technique that involves reversing life and death, all of them are extremely dangerous. Like Balian, he could reverse life and death with only the corpses of 7 elite mist ninjas, and the return of the dead made him feel unbelievable. Maybe I know what's going on. Just when Orochimaru and others were puzzled, a carefree voice suddenly came from behind. When everyone heard it, they couldn't help but look back. I saw a Konoha genin wearing a green tights, with thick short hair, and a hearty smile on his face, slowly walking forward from the crowd. Dad, don't talk nonsense. How can you, a genin, know such an advanced thing? When Might Guy saw that the person who spoke was actually his father, his expression tightened. Although after learning 8 inner gates from Might Guy, he knew that his father, known as 10,000 years genin, was actually a master of hidden secrets, but no matter how deep the secrets were, he couldn't change his father's determination. Know the facts of the forbidden technique. If it's another technique, then I really don't know. But unfortunately, first Mizukage's technique happened to be the field I dabbled in. Quote. Facing the gazes of Orochimaru, Tsunade and others, Might Guy was not stage frightened or nervous at all. Instead, he returned Might Guy with a confident smile on his face. Are you kidding me? What field can a 10,000 years genin cover? Tell me, is it body replacement technique, clone technique, or transformation technique? There is no one other than the members of the Uchiha family who can speak in such a weird way. Rice fire. Uchiha Fugaku frowned slightly at first, but then sighed in his heart. He was not dissatisfied with Uchiha Rice Fire's rude words to Might Guy, but dissatisfied with the change of mentality of the tribe. However, as the patriarch, he has nothing to do about it. After all, although Uchiha Shisui was defeated by Iron Fist, the pupil technique of distinguished heavenly gods and the appearance of 2 pairs of Mangekyo Sharingan in the family inevitably made Uchiha people more arrogant and arrogant. No way, patriarch. Do you really believe that a 10,000 years genin will have a higher insight than us Uchiha? None of us here can see the forbidden technique secret of first generation. Can he, a 10,000 years genin, see it? Uchiha Inaka curled her lips and said arrogantly. As Uchiha high-sided, if it's convenient, can you tell me how tall you are? It may also open the eyes of the old students. Quote. Facing Uchiha Daohuo's unabashed questioning and sarcasm, Might Guy looked indifferent, but Might Guy was flushed with anger. Just when he was overwhelmed and wanted to prove to everyone that his father was definitely not 10,000 years genin, a voice full of jokes suddenly came from the center of the battlefield. Student. No way. As this 10,000 years genin a student of ninja heroes? Just listen to the voice, don't look at the face, all Konoha shinobi present will know who it is. At this moment, not only Orochimaru and others, even the newly revived first Mizukage Balian couldn't help but look at Might Guy after hearing Carl's words. Master Carl's student. Impossible. My dad can't be this powerful. Might Guy just felt as if his head had been hit hard, and he was stunned. Even if he is only genin at this time, he still knows how important the word Iron Fist is in the entire ninja world. But he never thought that that person would be his father. Student of Lord Carl. Unlike the shock and disbelief of Might Guy, Tsunade and others, Uchiha Inafora's face was pale and looked bloodless. What is Daohuo talking so much about? Apart from being shocked, Uchiha Fugaku was more annoyed. What happened to the people in your own family? It's fine if you like to cause trouble, but why do you always provoke Iron Fist? He tried his best to calm down the turmoil caused by Uchiha Shisui before, but it took only 2 days. At this moment, he really wanted to tear Uchiha Inafari's mouth open 5 times. Chapter 74. Do you believe this 10,000 years genin, killing you first Mizukage is just like playing? The 8th update asks for the first order. Mr. Carl, thanks to your guidance, the students' gymnastics can achieve today's achievements. Facing so many unbelievable gazes, Might Guy was a little embarrassed, but since Carl had voluntarily disclosed his identity, he no longer concealed it, but faced the person not far away who was confronting first Mizukage calmly. Carl Bose. This move undoubtedly confirmed his identity as a heroic disciple, and also made the faces of all Uchiha present as black as the bottom of the pot. Especially Uchiha Rice Fire, how arrogant he was just now, and how ugly he is now. Dad, you are really Master Carl's student. Might Guy was completely dumbfounded. This, 673, scene came too suddenly and violently. Even if he was as passionate, youthful, and as rough as he was, he felt dizzy at one point. Actually, I just happened to have been instructed by the teacher a few times. So strictly speaking, I cannot be regarded as Carl's student. Quote. Seeing his son's adoring face, Might Dai looked at himself in admiration, and scratched his hair a little embarrassedly. Although he said it very modestly, there was no one with the surname Uchiha present who counted as one. Ha ha ha, Iron Fist, I didn't expect you to accept a 10,000 years genin student. You don't see the old man resurrected again, you are worried that the old man will seek revenge on you, and you think of using this thick-browed brat to laugh at the old man to death. Bai Lian looked at Might Dai, the more she looked at it, the more she couldn't help laughing. Although all the attention was focused on the resurrection and defense against Carl just now, Uchiha Inafari's taunting voice was a bit loud, and it was impossible for him not to hear it. Bai Lian, do you believe that the 10,000 years genin in your mouth said that killing you, First Mizukage, is like playing with your hands? Facing Bai Lian's ridicule, Carl also grinned. Could it be that this funny boy with thick eyebrows has learned Iron Fist's arm color and observation hockey? When Bai Lian's ridicule stopped abruptly, she couldn't help but look at the ordinary-looking Might Dai again. Killing First Mizukage is a joke. If I remember correctly, Might Dai can't do anything except physical skills. Stupid, have you forgotten? Your Excellency Carl directly ruled the Sengoku era with the strongest ninja martial arts. Hearing Carl's words, whether it's Konoha Shinobi or Wu Ninja, the way they looked at Might Dai suddenly changed. Especially those who were familiar with Konoha Shinobi who might wear. They couldn't help thinking about it. It's not that Might Dai doesn't know ninjutsu, but because he learned from Iron Fist, he doesn't bother to practice ninjutsu and illusion other than physical jutsu. Dad, I finally understand. No wonder you have been firmly telling me before that even if a person does not know ninjutsu or genjutsu, he can become a powerful ninja if he only knows taijutsu. It turns out that what you said was not to encourage me, but to be true. After Might Dai made up his mind, his whole blood boiled with excitement. That's right, that's it. Might Dai looked a little embarrassed. In fact, he was just comforting and encouraging his son at that time, but he really didn't think so much. Dai, what is the forbidden technique of First Mizukage? Orochimaru glanced at the wonderful expressions of Uchiha Fugaku and others with a half-smile, and then asked Might Dai. Although this background came suddenly, he still quickly adjusted his mentality. Although it is not enough to bow down to Might Dai, but it is neither humble nor overbearing, completely treating the other party as an equal ninja. Master Orochimaru, you must have heard of the human body 8 gate. Might Dai nodded. 8 gates. Hearing this, Orochimaru first glanced at First Mizukage, then thoughtfully. Did Dai really see this? From the corner of Uchiha Fugaku's Sharingan, Shiroran's expression suddenly became a little stiff. What does 8 gate have to do with the forbidden technique that reverses life and death? Uchiha Inahara asked hard. Although he didn't admit it directly, his tone was no longer as arrogant as before. Just now you saw the 7 ninja swords suddenly release the extremely amazing chakra, you must have thought that the 7 ninja swords gave them this power, right? In fact, it is not the ninja sword that gives such chakra at all, but First Mizukage sealed a forbidden technique in the 7 ninja swords. If I'm not mistaken, this should be a forbidden technique that forcibly destroys the 8 gate of the human body, so as to release the chakra banned by the 8 gate. Quote. When Might Dai said this, First Mizukage's expression was no longer stiff, but shocked. Destroy the 8 gate. The 7 ninja swordsmen. Dai. The 8 gate is a kind of protection for the human body. Think about where the first gate opens and the second gate closes. Brain. Destroying the 8 gate 1.5 of the human body in such a cruel way, even if it only destroys the first gate, the only thing waiting for the 7 ninja swordsmen is death. Not to mention, the 7 swordsmen just now were basically destroyed above the 5th gate, otherwise it would be impossible to release that level of chakra. Before Tsunade could ask, Might Dai had already said solemnly. As the ninja era of Ninja Village, he is currently the only ninja who has cultivated 8 inner gates to the Death Gate dog. Almost no one in this era can understand 8 gates of the human body better than him. It is precisely because he is familiar with the 8 gate of the human body, as early as the beginning when Mist Shinobi released the amazing chakra, he knew that the 7 ninja swordsmen were over. Chapter 75 The old man is stronger than before, but you are older than before. Chapter 9 Please book first. It turns out that it was not the first Mizukage who left the ninja swords with power, but destroyed the 8 gate in their bodies, so as to release more chakra to revive themselves. What a cruel forbidden technique, but also a vicious Mizukage. Mist Shinobi's 7 swords are the most elite 7 Mizukages in Kurigakure. I didn't expect Shiroran to treat them like this as Mist Shinobi's first Mizukage. No wonder Lord Carl said that first Mizukage is the cruelest, coldest, most insidious and cunning Mizukage that Kurigakure has ever seen. Even Orochimaru, who has always been obsessed with forbidden technique and likes to study the mysteries of the human body, had his eyelids twitch when he heard Might Dai's words, let alone other Konoha Shinobi practitioners. A shadow, who doesn't want to protect the ninjas in his ninja village, but plots against them in such a cruel and vicious way makes 15 Ino Shikacho and others feel shuddering. If Konoha's Hokage is the same. Thinking of this, they dare not imagine. Without him, Konoha's Hokage may not be like this for the time being, but Konoha's Pot King is like this. Damn it, how could he do that? Has he forgotten that he is Mizukage from Shangyan village? If it is said that Ino Shikacho and the others feel more sad than the rabbits and foxes, then the Citrus Yagura and the others really empathize with them. Although it was Loquat Shazang and others who sacrificed, not him. But Mist Shinobi has always been the dream that all Mist Shinobi yearn for and strive for. As a result, First Mizukage Hakuren has directly taught a lesson to all one and present. The so-called 7 swords of Mist Shinobi, the so-called 7 most elite ninjas in Kurigakure, the dream that thousands of Kurigakure people and ninjas yearn for, void is just a power bank for Julian's resurrection. This makes Citrus Yagura and the Fog ninjas feel better. Shut up. What do you idiots know? If the old man can't defeat Iron Fist, then everyone in Kurigakure will have to eat fog in the land of water for the rest of their lives until they are destroyed. Everything the old man did was for Kurigakure, for the land of water. The 7 of them can contribute to the return of the old man and the future of Kurigakure. This is their supreme pride and honor. If there is no old man, how can you have a place in the ninja world? If it is not for the old man, can you sit in one of the 5 great ninja villages? Can you sit in one of the 5 great countries? Facing the many wonen who were filled with righteous indignation and blamed him with indignation, Bai Lian smiled disdainfully. He never felt that there was anything wrong with what he did. As the first generation Wukage of the Sengoku era, what kind of kind person do you really think? Even first Hokage, known as a modest and humble gentleman, has been tainted with the lives of countless children, even babies, let alone first Mizukage, who founded the village of Blood Mist. As long as he can be resurrected and take Tekken to the Pure Land, let alone the 7 ninja swordsmen, even if it is the thousands of wonen on the battlefield, or even all the ninjas in Kurigakure, he will not frown. As this the shadow of the first generation from the Sengoku era. No wonder he created the village of Blood Mist. It turns out that the root of the village of Blood Mist is himself. Bai Lian is confident, and the performance of Shiwu's patience is like a mustard, which deeply shocked every ninja. First generation level shadows are unfamiliar to the vast majority of ninjas in this era. Whether it is Konoha or Kirin, most of their knowledge of the first generation 5 cages comes from ninja stories, novels, and of course ninja school textbooks. This is the first time to understand, recognize, and look at a first generation level movie with the first sight. But this was the first time that directly subverted their inherent cognition of first generation movies. This era is really interesting. No wonder Zunyan village can only be peaceful for so many years. It turns out that the current little ninja is as innocent as a flower in a greenhouse. Quote. Bai Lian shook her head, and her tone was full of dissatisfaction with Karinen's weakness, as well as not being cruel enough, cold-blooded, insidious and cunning. It's as if with you here, Mist Shinobi doesn't need to eat fog. These little guys are okay, at least they can still eat the chance of fog. Unlike you, this time I can only eat. Quote. There was a smirk of disdain on Carl's face. Don't be ashamed of your words, Iron Fist old ghost, do you think this old man is still the same White Lotus that you drove to the land of water with only 240? When Bai Lian heard the words, her expression suddenly became ferocious like a ghost. The powerful chakra, like a cold frost storm, enveloped the entire battlefield in an instant. After the resurrection, the sense of oppression he exuded was several times stronger than before the resurrection. Forgive me for my stupid eyesight, in the past and now, you are no different in the eyes of this old man. It's still that desperate dog that can only run away with its tail between its legs. Facing the oppression of chakra emanating from the White Lotus, Carl put himself in a majestic mountain surrounded by heavy rain and wind, and remained unmoved at all. HMPH, the old man's resurrection this time is stronger than before, but you are older than before. How much strength can you retain at your peak when you are nearly 100 years old? Bai Lian snarled and stomped her right foot on the ground. Boom. As the ground cracked countless cracks nearly 100 meters long, he had disappeared in place, bursting out at a speed that even Mangekyo Sharingan's insight could hardly keep up with, flashed in front of Carl in an instant, and punched him directly, out. Chapter 76 Mizukage, the only 3-blood successor in the history of Mist Shinobi. This time with your tail between your legs, it's your turn to be the loser. Bai Lian looked at Carl who was about to be hit by her own fist, and she couldn't help but burst out of her eyes with joy, excitement and ecstasy. He was so excited that he didn't notice that after he yelled, the expressions of Orochimaru, Tsunade, Uchiha Fugaku and others on the side gradually became weird, revealing a hint of pity. Fighting an old man. Do you think you're Hokage? You're just Mizukage. Carl smiled inwardly, and with 5 fingers clenched lightly, his right fist suddenly thrust out, like a shooting star piercing the sky, and slammed hard on Bai Lian's fist. Boom. As the 2 fists collided, a loud noise spread across the entire battlefield at a frightening speed. At the same time, surging forces collided with each other, and under the fierce confrontation, a violent wind passed through the border like a typhoon, sweeping across 100 meters. 2 legendary ninjas from the Sengoku era fought, even if it was just the aftermath of the force caused by the collision of their fists. The 100-meter high ground beneath their feet had already been lifted nearly 10 meters thick, and a terrifying crater had been blasted out. Boom. Just when everyone was still immersed in the shock of the 2 punches, Bai Lian, who was fighting Carl, suddenly let out a muffled groan, and then flew backwards in an instant like a cannonball fired, and pulled the cart with both feet on the ground to make 255ths Duomi's gully, barely stabilized his body just now. Why is the fist strength of this Iron Fist old ghost still so strong? Fortunately, the old man is no longer the Bai Lian from back then. Otherwise, if you come back from the resurrection this time, I'm afraid you will still lose again. Bai Lian took a deep look at Carl. Although she was moved by Carl's strength in her heart, she smiled instead of being surprised. Chi. Carl glanced at his right fist, and saw not only the cold air fluttering on the fist, but also layers of ice gradually emerging from it. In an instant, half of his arm was frozen by ice, and even the ice in his hand was not satisfied with it, and it continued to extend towards his shoulders and chest. Ice escape. Can it be cast without seals? Quite similar to Cloud Shinobi Village ninjutsu. At this time, onlookers Tsunade, Uzumaki Kushina and others also saw Carl's frozen arm. Click. Before they could feel worried, Carl had raised his right hand, and with a slight shake of his arm, the ice cubes on his body had already shattered into shards. Is this what you said was stronger than back then? Carl looked straight at Balian, his eyes full of surprise. Ice escape ice dragon tricycle dance. Taiwan escape strong wind cracks. Bai Lian's face was gloomy, but she raised her hands in a seal without saying a word. As his left and right hands formed different seals like lightning, the bone-chilling frosty air, as well as the strong typhoon that cut rocks and uprooted the ground, flooded the battlefield at the same time. In the next second, 3 ice dragons with a length of 100 meters soared into the sky surrounded by a violent typhoon. Ice escape and Taiwan escape. Boundary of the 2 blood successors. As expected of a first-generation level shadow, he can use one-handed seals to cast 2 kinds of blood succession boundaries at the same time. Just as Konoha shinobi watching the battle, Kiri couldn't help but marvel at Balian's strength, but Balian suddenly opened her hands. Swift-style extreme speed. The speed of the hurricane ravaging the battlefield and the ice dragon soaring into the sky increased several times at the same time. Even Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui, who opened Mangekyo Sharingan, felt that a typhoon composed of countless invisible wind blades had engulfed Carl's body, and then the 300-meter-long, lifelike the ice dragon fell from the sky and hit Carl condescendingly. When they came back to their senses, Carl's figure had disappeared, replaced by an iceberg hundreds of meters high, exuding white cold mist. Hiss. It's actually 3 kinds of blood succession boundaries. As expected, First Mizukage is the only health-limited Mizukage in Yuanian's history. The shadows who can create a ninja village in the Sengoku era are indeed monsters. Witnessed the legendary battles with my own eyes, whether it was the proud Uchiha, the ruthless mist ninja who hated First Mizukage, or Orochimaru, Uzumaki Kushina, the proud sons of the ninja village era, without exception, they were all shocked beyond compare. The battles between the top powerhouses in the Sengoku era are simply not comparable to the battles of the shadows in the ninja village era. Among other things, it's just a matter of raising your hands, controlling the 3 kinds of blood succession boundaries. Not only are each of them extremely powerful, but also the 3 blood succession boundaries can complete the compound blood succession ninjutsu. Looking at the ninja world of this era, no one can do it. Do it. Quote. Iron Fist old ghost, it seems that you are really old. This slow reaction is not as good as it used to be. Although all of this is in the old man's calculations, killing you like this still makes the old man feel very boring. Bai Lian saw that Carl was first cut by the typhoon, then swallowed by the ice dragon, and frozen into an iceberg. Lu Nuohao had an uncontrollable smile on her face. After he suffered a tragic defeat and was forced to establish Kurigakure in the land of water, he gradually realized a cruel fact. If you want to defeat Iron Fist, you can't do it in your lifetime. The only thing ninja world can defeat the number 1 hero of Sengoku is time. Since you can't beat the Iron Fist at its peak, then defeat the old Iron Fist. With this understanding, Baron sealed her chakra and soul on Kurigakure's 7 ninja swords before she died, and of course there is a forbidden technique. As Might Dai said before, forcibly destroy the forbidden technique of the 8 gate in the body of the 7 ninja swordsmen. It's all about living another life. Chapter 77 Legendary Battle Part 1. Please subscribe. First Mizukage, he really did it. Citrus Yagura looked at Bai Lian who was laughing wildly, with a very complicated expression. I feel chilled that Kurigakure has such a cruel, cold-blooded, cunning and insidious first Mizukage. At the same time, I also feel admiration and pride for Kurigakure to have such a stunningly talented first Mizukage who defeated Iron Fist for a shame and survived another life. Can the power of the 3 blood successors really shake the ninja heroes? Uchiha Fugaku opened his Mangekyo Sharingan, staring intently at the iceberg towering over the battlefield. Even his Mangekyo Sharingan couldn't see through this iceberg filled with ice escape chakra, Taiwan escape chakra, and swift style chakra, and looked directly at everything inside. Cannot see. Hyuga Hazashi's heart tightened. It was the first time he encountered something that even the perspective of white eyes could not see through. The compound blood successor ninjutsu composed of the 3 blood successors is indeed powerful, but if you want to defeat the man who has ruled the roost for 2 ages in one blow, it is too easy to go too far. What's more, 027 Balian's so-called calculations, time may really be able to defeat Iron Ninja heroes, but the ninja heroes at this stage should not be at the age that time can shake. Thinking of this, Orochimaru couldn't help turning his head to look at Tsunade. When it comes to the understanding of Tekken, Tsunade is the most recommended. After all, since Iron Mountain came out, Tsunade has been following that man every step of the way. Carl Uncle is the only hero who is not affected by age. Putting Buddha on is a tacit understanding between Sannin, and when Orochimaru's gaze came, Tsunade just looked over. As long as he doesn't die of old age, he will never be defeated. After the two looked at each other, they couldn't help reaching a consensus. Summoning technique. However, When the eyes of many ninjas flickered and they secretly speculated whether the iron fist was really shaken, Bai Lian suddenly formed a seal and stretched out her hand to press on the ground. Pop! Accompanied by bursts of white mist, a burly tortoise with 3 tails and the size of a hill was summoned onto the battlefield. 3 tails. The shadows of the Sengoku era are all monsters, and they signed a summoning contract with the tailed beast. Legendary shadows are all tailed beasts used as summoning beasts. Everyone looked at it and found that it was 3 tails who was summoned by Balian, and they were stunned. At this moment, many people can't help but wonder, in the Sengoku era, if you don't tame 1 or 2 tailed beasts, you are ashamed to call yourself a shadow. Although he has been frozen, but the body of this iron fist old ghost is too strong, it is better to add another insurance. Thinking of the fist fight with Carl before, Bai Lian couldn't help but a glint of gloom flashed in her eyes staring at Bingshan. I saw his left hand forming a mudra, and his right hand pressing 3 tails' head. Scoff. Before the summoned 3 tails could react, layers of huge ice blocks had already frozen his huge body and 3 thick and long tails into ice. The water dragon is sealed. After freezing the 3 tails into an ice sculpture of a tailed beast with the ice escape, Bai Lian grasped the ice layer on the surface of the 3 tails with both hands, and then several ice dragon chains suddenly extended from the abdomen to connect the 3 tails. Seal up. With a cold shout, the ice dragon's chains shrunk wildly, pulled down, and the huge 3 tails ice sculpture was directly sucked into Bai Lian's body. Subdued, BFEC, and sealed a tailed beast in an instant. Without Lord Carl, first generation Gokage would have been the ceiling of the Sengoku era. It's really hard to imagine how His Excellency Carl completely covered up the light of the first generation 5 cages. Witnessing the whole process of first Mizukage summoning, imprisoning, and sealing 3 tails, all the ninjas present were moved. This is one of the 9-tailed beasts, and the number of chakra ranks 7th among 3 tails. In front of the first generation film, he was as weak as a puppy who hadn't grown up, and was immediately subdued and sealed. What a pity. Iron Fist old ghost. When it's your turn to be the homeless dog, you don't even have the chance to run away with your tail between your legs. Originally, the old man was full of expectation to see you with your tail between your legs, fleeing back to the land of fire in a panic. Unfortunately, there is no chance. Bai Lian opened her eyes suddenly, and an ominous and evil aura emanated from her body. Immediately afterwards, the blood-red tail beast chakra emerged from all parts of its body. In the blink of an eye, 3 blood-red tails fluttered in the wind. Tailed Beast Bomb. After turning into a half-tailed beast, the White Lotus, which looked like a small 3 tails, immediately opened its mouth. While 1 red and 1 blue chakra particles were flying all over the sky, they quickly gathered in front of his mouth, and then turned into a black sphere whose density of chakra was so shocking that the surrounding air rippled. In the next second, he opened his mouth to bite the Tailed Beast Bomb, swallowed the Tailed Beast Bomb, and then spit it forward. Boom. The air rippled huge circles in an instant, and the Tailed Beast Bomb that he had swallowed into his mouth flew straight towards the iceberg that froze Carl with a loud bang. At this moment, all ninjas are staring at Tailed Beast Bomb. They all want to know whether the first Mizukage Baron, who returns from the dead, and the most intimidating Tailed Beast Bomb in the ninja era can really pull down the number 1 hero in the Sengoku era from the throne of the strongest ninja world. Even if 1 tail, the weakest among the tailed beasts, can easily flatten several mountains with Tailed Beast Bomb. No matter how strong the Iron Fist is, it is still a human being, and it is always a body of flesh and blood. If you hit a Tailed Beast Bomb from 3 tails without defense, you will be seriously injured if you don't die. Citrus Yagura couldn't help sighing when he saw this scene. Chapter 78. You don't really think you can beat the old man, do you? Second update asks for subscription. Aside from Mist Shinobi's 7 swords, look at Balian's plan to live again, to the return of the dead, and then the compound ninjutsu of the 3 blood successors, the 3 tails sealed at the fingertips, and finally the Tailed Beast Bomb. Every step is amazingly talented. Whether it is Yagura, the Mizukage candidate, or other Mizukage, or even some Konoha shinobi who had full confidence in Carl, they have seen the talent and strength of first-generation Mizukage, and even the White Lotus who once gave birth to the return of the dead, maybe it really has the qualifications to shake the heroes of the ninja world. Farewell, Iron Fist. Bai Lian looked at the iceberg standing majestically on the land of water, and the moment complex lights such as joy, hatred, and excitement flashed from the depths of her eyes, the Tailed Beast Bomb also bombarded the iceberg that pierced into the sky. Bang! A dazzling orange light flashed, and the Tailed Beast Bomb, which was originally only a few meters in radius, swelled into a whale swallowing a kilometer with a loud noise that shook tens of miles away, devouring all matter and life. The huge incense carrot sphere. The dense fog covering the battlefield was instantly blown away by the powerful shock wave caused by the explosion of the Tailed Beast Bomb. It has been entrenched in the sky for many years with thick and cloudy clouds, and even a spherical hole was torn out on the spot. It looks like the sky has been smashed to pieces and a hole has been cracked. Without the thick fog and the barrier of overcast clouds, the long-lost sunlight finally shines on the land of the Kingdom of Water without hindrance. However, before the flowers, plants and trees on the ground were bathed in the long-lost brilliant and warm sunshine, wave after wave of air waves visible to the naked eye had reached the surface within 2 kilometers, uprooting countless flowers, plants and trees, and overturning them to tens of meters high. When the blindingly bright light gradually weakened until it dissipated, when the ground stopped shaking, the Konoha shinobi warrior on the battlefield, Wu Ninja got up from the ground, opened his eyes to look, Duo Mie softly felt the smoke, the mushroom cloud of soil and broken wood immediately hit everyone's eyes. Whether it is a ninja who has witnessed the power of the tailed beast before, or someone who has never seen the tailed beast bomb, at this moment, everyone is moved by the damage caused by Balian's blow. The shame of that year has finally been wiped away with my own hands. Bai Lian stared deeply at the huge crater blown out by the tailed beast bomb in front of her, and then turned to look at Orochimaru, Tsunade and others. When he noticed the Konoha shinobi occupying the Kingdom of Fire, they were all dumbfounded with a shocked expression. A satisfied sneer appeared on his face. Konoha's little ghost, who has occupied the old man's fire country for so many years, should return today. Do you choose to be caught without a fight, or let the old man send you to fight to reunite with Iron Fist and First Hokage? His tone is filled with condescending arrogance, as if it were an enhanced version of Uchiha. Obviously, without the heroes of the ninja world and the god of ninjas, as a first-generation Mizukage, he simply puts Konohagakure in the ninja village era in his eyes. It will not bother you, First Mizukage. To meet Carl Uncle, I really don't need your help. But my great-grandfather really wants to trouble Senior to say hello to him on my behalf. Tsunade took a deep breath, then shook his head. Sharp-mouthed little girl, you are Senju Hashirama's granddaughter. No wonder you dare to talk to this old man like that. It seems that your grandfather really died early, and it was too late to teach you how to respect the seniors in the ninja world. That being the case, the old man will help him discipline his granddaughter for the sake of being a first-generation actress. Bai Lian's face turned cold. As Mizukage who founded the village of Blood Mist, he has never been a big-hearted fog ninja. Tsunade's words immediately made him want to kill. Hey, don't keep talking to my grandniece in that tone. Otherwise, people will think that you really defeated the old man. Just as Bai Lian was about to cast Swift Style and dodge towards Tsunade, a faint sound came from behind. You. When Bai Lian heard the voice, her body froze immediately. When he turned his head and saw Carl in a black suit walking leisurely out of the deep pit, his face was startled at first, and then became extremely gloomy. Apparently, he finally came to his senses. Just now Tsunade might die. Orochimaru and other Konoha shinobi were stunned, not because they were shocked by the strength of his White Lotus, but because they were surprised that the Iron Fist was intact. Looking at your expression, it seems that it is really difficult to accept. Bai Lian, you don't really think you can beat the old man, do you? As for the tailed beast bomb of the old turtle, it can only be used as fireworks. Quote. While talking, Carl unbuttoned and tore off the black suit he had never taken off in battle since he came out of the mountain. Without the cover of the suit, only a thin white shirt could not cover his muscles so strong that the ninjas gasped. Carl Uncle is so strong it's a bit foul. When Tsunade saw Carl take off his suit, the white shirt bulged out from his muscles, his beautiful eyes flashed hot. Grunt. Uzumaki Kushina stared blankly at Carl in a white shirt, and she didn't even notice that he was swallowing saliva involuntarily at this moment. Chapter 79. A hero in a suit and a hero in a suit are two completely different things. Old Iron Fist is going to get serious. Bai Lian looked at Carl who tore off the suit with one hand, and then unbuttoned the cuff buttons on the white shirt, her pupils constricted involuntarily. As a first-generation Mizukage of the same era as Tekken, how could he not know some of Carl's habits? A hero in a suit is completely different from a hero in a suit. Help the old man hold it first. Carl rolled the cuffs up to the forearm, and then threw the suit thrown on the ground towards Tsuneko and the others. Oops, one step too late. Uzumaki Kushina looked at the flying suit, her eyes lit up, and when she was about to reach out, 667, found that Tsunade beside her had quick eyesight and quick hands, and snatched the suit jacket thrown by Carl before her. This is mine. Tsunade gave Uzumaki Kushina a vaguely smug look. It was actually preempted by Master Tsunade. If I knew it, I would have turned into a tailed beast to snatch it. Uzumaki Kushina glared at Tsunade unconvinced, but regretted it in his heart. Orochimaru, Naruto, Might Die and others beside him felt the breath of the Shira field, and they all moved a few steps without any trace, and moved away from Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina. The aging warm-up session is over. Balian, are you mentally prepared to go to the Pure Land? Carl ignored the two women who wanted to leave the Shira field, and now his attention was on the half-tailed beast like Bai Lian. This sentence is what the old man told you. When Bai Lian saw Carl in a white shirt with his sleeves rolled up to his forearms, a shameful image appeared in his mind. The Iron Fist that gave him the humiliation of his life back then was almost exactly the same as it is today. Except for a little more gray hair. Whether it's appearance, dress, or the eyes that look down on the ninja world, they don't look at themselves at all, they are all the same as before. This old man will never be defeated by you again. Recalling the disastrous defeat back then, intense anger and shame swept through her body and mind. Bai Lian roared immediately, and chakra burst out like a wave, rolling up a violent wave of air and rippling in all directions. Tailed Beast Bomb. Ice escaped Tailed Beast Bomb. With a roar that shook the battlefield and blown away the dense fog and cloud that filled the sky, Bai Lian opened her mouth suddenly, and one red and one blue chakra particles crazily surged out, and instantly condensed into two three-story-high chakra particles. Tailed Beast Bomb. However, he didn't stop there. At the moment when the two tailed beast bombs condensed and formed, he simultaneously poured the two jet black tailed beast bombs suspended in front of him into Taiwan chakra and ice chakra respectively. As the cold air and violent hurricane swept away at the same time, the two tailed beast bombs burst into bright blue light and blue light respectively. At the same time, the space area where Balian is located presents a strange polarization. In the area on the left-hand side, the hurricane is raging, and at a glance, there are wind blade turbulence full of ear-piercing buzzing. In the area on the right-hand side, the cold air is soaring into the sky. Wherever the eye enters, the earth directly turns into a desolate ice land. Two kinds of strange visions spread to the area hundreds of meters away from the battlefield at the same time. And all of this is only affected by the chakra emitted by the two-tailed beast bombs that merged with the blood succession limit. See it. This is the current old man, First Mizukage, who will live another life. Bai Lian roared fiercely, opened her hands, and extended several blood-red chakra hands to the two-tailed beast bombs suspended in the air. Boom. At the moment when a piercingly cold but knife-sharp air wave rippling around, two-tailed beast bombs, one green and one blue, were like meteors piercing the sky, carrying the terrifying chakra that freezes everything and shreds everything at the same time. It pierced through the air and flew towards Carl. However, under a pair of nervous, apprehensive, curious, and excited gazes, Carl, facing the tailed beast bomb and the ice-escaped tailed beast bomb, did not use any ninjutsu or illusion. Not even chakra radiates. When the two-tailed beast bombs were about to submerge him, and Bai Lian couldn't help showing ecstasy, he finally moved. There is no ninja ultimate taijutsu that Orochimaru, Tsunade, Uchiha Fugaku and others imagined, and it is hard to touch with the beast jade infused with blood succession limit. Some are just two cattail fan-like palms, stretched out unhurriedly, and then grab them casually. Boom. The two-tailed beast bombs, which are capable of distorting matter and rewriting the terrain of several kilometers in an instant, are like toy balls thrown by children. Carl directly grasped them firmly with his bare hands. 0.1. Although the moment the two-tailed beast bombs touched Carl's palm, there was a wave of wind-style and ice chakra storm, but the hands in front of the two-tailed beast bombs were like witnessing the ninja world. The rise and fall of history has carried the battles of strong ninjas, and the land of ninjas is as indestructible and unbreakable. Even though the two-tailed beast bombs continuously released the terrifying chakra turbulence, they still couldn't shake the hands, palms at all. Gradually, the two-tailed beast bombs didn't know whether they were desperate or had exhausted their strength. They were completely clasped firmly by Carl's hands and 10 fingers, and there was no trace of chakra storm spreading out. Chapter 80 Cage Level Battle. Chickens are pecking at each other. Please subscribe to the 4th update. Catch. Catch. Hiss. Oh my god. Lord Carl actually grabbed First Mizukage's tailed beast bomb with his hands. That's the tailed beast bomb infused with the power of Taiwan Dungeon and Ice Dungeon. What kind of physical strength is needed to reach out and grab it, and still grab it? Witnessing Carl's astonishing feat of following the tailed beast bomb with two bloods empty-handed, whether it's Tsunade, Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha Shinobi, or Yagura's Wanin, all of them were pale with shock and took a breath in their mouths. Before Carl started, they had imagined many scenes. Such as the confrontation with the tailed beast bomb in Superman 6. Like armament hockey colliding with tailed beast bomb. Another example is that legendary heroes will show more powerful powers that they have never seen before. But no matter how many people thought about it, they didn't expect that the way Carl carried the tailed beast bomb was to roll up his sleeves and reach out to grab it, but he still caught it. Seeing the two-tailed beast bomb and ice escape 15-tailed beast bomb held firmly in Carl's palm like small toy balls, everyone fell silent in unison. After taking off the suit, the hero shocked them beyond measure for the first time. This is the real legendary battle. The so-called battle of cage-level powerhouses in the Ninja Village era, in front of this legendary powerhouse, is simply like school students pecking at each other. After watching Carl's attack and witnessing the battle between the hero and the first-generation Mizukage, every ninja present silently compares the cage-level battles they have seen in the past with the legendary battles in front of them, and only this is in their heart's idea. Cage-level battle. Chickens are pecking at each other. Caught it empty-handed. Why is Iron Fist Old Ghost still so strong? Impossible. There is no reason for this to happen. The old man lives another life. Whether it is chakra, spirit or body, they have surpassed the peak moments of the past, but Iron Fist has always been aging. He, who has not lived a new life, is now nearly 100 years old. Logically speaking, whether it is physical fitness, strength, speed, or hockey, etc., they should all show a vertical decline. Quote. Bai Lian was also stunned by Carl's feat. At this moment, he only felt that his mind seemed to be churned into a mess. He couldn't understand, and it was even more difficult to accept that Carl actually had such strength. In his opinion, even with the iron fists of the Sengoku era, if you want to enter the tailed beast bomb empty-handed, you must use your armed hands to harden your hands, and then do it with all your strength. It's not like now, just like catching a toy ball thrown by a child with every gesture. Indescribably smooth and flowing, indescribably pleasing to the eye, without any sense of effort at all. That's all. It seems that if you live another life, you will only live in vain after all. As soon as Carl's words fell, before Bai Lian became furious, she had disappeared in place, including the two-tailed beast bombs that he had held in his hand. Not good. Seeing the moment when the tailed beast bomb disappeared, Bai Lian already knew something was wrong. He didn't even care about his anger. He was completely transformed into a tailed beast under the tailed beast chakra, which was as majestic as the tide and dyed the sky red with thick fog. Originally, he kept the half-human, half-small 3 tails, but now he has turned into a tail beast directly, becoming a giant tortoise with 3 huge tails and a body as magnificent as a mountain. 3 tails. He turned into 3 tails with a complete tail beast, and he can still maintain absolute sanity. The huge chakra and destructive power of the tailed beast, combined with the wisdom and ninja and body of the first-generation Kage, the strength displayed by Gen is simply not comparable to the Jinchuriki of the Ninja Village era, or the wild-tailed beast. Most of the Jinchuriki in the ninja village era couldn't even control the tailed beasts, so they could only borrow part of their strength. The outstanding ones mastered the complete tailed beast transformation and fully exerted the power of the tailed beasts, but that's all. The combination of 5 shadows and tailed beasts in the Sengoku era is a perfect combination of their own skills and wisdom, with the tailed beast chakra and power, not simply relying on tailed beasts, let alone relying on tailed beasts, but relying on tailed beasts complement yourself with the power and push your own power to a higher peak. Just like Bai Lian at that time. It is completely supplemented by the power of the tailed beast, increasing the limit of his 3 blood successors. Back to you. 280 at the moment when Balian was completely transformed into a tailed beast, Carl had already carried 2 tailed beast bombs, one green and one blue, as if teleporting, flashing in front of the 3 tails transformed by Balian, and twisting the 2 tailed beast bombs with his left and right hands he directly pressed down on Balian's glands. Ice escaped the hand of Isofu. Bai Lian's one-eyed fixedly stared at the 2-tailed beast bombs that fell from the sky, and at the same time, the 3 tails like giant steel pythons on the back were quickly covered by ice, turning into 3 huge ice hands that soared into the sky, with the posture of towering lively stop the 2 tails. Boom! A deafening bang, accompanied by a monstrous shock wave, swept across the entire battlefield in an instant. In the area where the 2 of them were, there was no longer any dense fog. The 1,000-meter sky above was no longer cloudy at all. Occupied by thick fog and cloud all the year round, the country of water, whose climate almost never changes, was directly collided by the blow of Carl and Balian, directly changing the climate. Looking at the warm sunshine shining down from the sky, Orochimaru and the others couldn't believe it, and Yagura, who was born in the land of water since childhood, was even more stupefied. Chapter 81 Blood Successor Tail Beast Bomb. It's just bowling, the 5th update requires subscription. Since you want to pick it up, let me pick it up for the old man. Seeing that Balian caught the tailed beast bomb that he dropped, the smile on Carl's face became more and more cheerful. I saw his arms sinking in the sky, and 2 black lightnings visible to the naked eye wrapped around his hands like a black dragon. With a clang, his 2 palms were already covered by thick black light, looking like 2 pitch black steel hands. The kind you risk your life to pick up. The moment the deep cold drink sounded, the palms of your 2-tailed beast bomb sank suddenly. He didn't use the 6 forms of Superman, nor did he use the body of the fist bone series, just use armament hockey's hardened hands, condescending and pressing down. The violent tide crushed down, and the gravity of the battlefield suddenly increased many times, and the airflow in the confrontation area between the 2 showed a flow like viscosity, flowing like a torrent of water. Boom! Feeling the monstrous power coming from the 3 tails, Bai Lian, who turned into a beast with tails, couldn't help but suspect that the fist strength of the Iron Fist Old Ghost would not be so heavy that the sky of the country of water could not bear it, and it would collapse directly. Soon, he was no longer suspicious. She tried her best to bear it, but Bai Lian, who still couldn't resist, had only one thought in her mind. The sky is falling. Faced with this kind of monstrous divine power that is not possessed by humans, can compete with tailed beasts, and even overwhelm them, even if Bai Lian tried her best, bloodshot eyes burst out of her huge eyes, she still couldn't change the 3 tails that kept falling. Shen, let alone stop the ice hand covering the tail from gradually cracking. The old man can't stop it. Bai Lian looked at the 2-tailed beast bombs that crushed the 3 icy hands and rolled down towards her face together with the 3 tails. One of his eyes was so wide that the eyeballs were about to burst, and his heart was filled with strong unwillingness and aggrieved. He knew that after living another life, after becoming the 3 tails Jinchuriki, he still couldn't compete with Carl in a head-to-head fight. However, under the enveloping breath of death, no amount of resentment can be turned into a powerless and dejected sigh in the end. Untie! Bai Lian roared unwillingly. Pop! The 3 tails carried by the tailed beast bomb suddenly disappeared, along with the body of the 3 tails. In the blink of an eye, he completely lifted the tailed beast. Swift style extreme speed, changed from 3 tails back to human, seized the gap from big to small, and immediately cast swift style to flash back. Leave it to the old man. But before Bai Lian cast swift style, Carl was already foresight, and he swung both hands at the same time. 2-tailed beast bombs transformed from toy balls to bowling balls in his hands. Call out. Bai Lian, who had just changed from big to small, had just cast swift style, and jumped 100 meters away, and 2-tailed beast bombs were thrown out by Carl like bowling balls, and the tailed beast bomb had already caught up. Ice escape ice array wall. Taiwan escape tornado rupture. Resentful and helpless, he could only stop, frantically extract the tail beast chakra from the 3 tails sealed in his body, and then clap his hands on the ground. Click. A wall of ice hundreds of meters across the ground rose from the ground and was carried on the tailed beast bomb. But in the face of the 2-tailed beast bombs, the ice wall was only shattered after holding on to a face-to-face, but at the moment the ice wall shattered, a storm caused by the collision suddenly rolled up under the 2-tailed beast bombs. Ice wall block. The storm is blowing. 2-tailed beast bombs almost brushed by Lian's face, and were thrown away by the storm. One Luffy was several thousand meters away, and then there was a loud bang. The forest several kilometers was first frozen, then chopped, and directly turned into a barren land of loess. Moonwalk. But before Bai Lian could breathe a sigh of relief, Carl had already stepped into the void. A wave of sonic boom that uprooted the trees was rolled up, and it flashed in front of him at a frightening speed. Fly towards him. Taiwan escape weathering technique. Looking at the black fist that almost occupied the sight of both eyes, Bai Lian couldn't help but feel endless panic in her heart. If it was the shadow of the ninja village era, it would have been too late to react, and the will could not bear it. Before Karl's iron fist hit his body, he was shocked by the terrifying oppression emanating from the fist, and his heart was desperate. As Mizukage of the first generation level, he has experienced countless bloody battles in the Sengoku era before living another life. With his indomitable will, he forcibly endured the mental oppression brought by Karl's punching. Barely finished printing. Service. There was a whistling sound, and his body instantly turned into a storm invisible to the naked eye, quickly spreading in all directions, but what prevented Bai Lian from collapsing on the spot was that his body had been weathered into an invisible wind. Karl's but iron fist Fang Nuo Jiao Jiao seems to be able to ignore all storms and directly grab his flesh and blood. What? As Karl's fist fell, a heavy bang sounded immediately, and then Bai Lian's body suddenly appeared in the midair, which was originally nothing but air. He vomited blood from the wind and flew out on the spot, like a meteorite falling from the sky, slamming down on the ground hundreds of meters away. How is this possible? Lying in the deep pit, her whole body was stained red with blood, and her face was as pale as paper. Bai Lian's eyes widened. No matter the eyes, face, or heart were all occupied by shock. He can't understand. During his lifetime, he had painstakingly developed the Taiwan escaping esoteric technique specially developed to target Karl's iron fist, but it turned out to be useless. Chapter 82 First Generation Shadow. 2 punches. Please subscribe to the 6th update. What exactly went wrong? When I developed the Taiden weathering technique, I had already carried out many experiments. Except for fire style and illusion, all ninjutsu and physical techniques can't hurt me after weathering. How did the iron fist old ghost do it? Bai Lian racked her brains to think about why she was injured by Karl, while she quickly got up from the deep pit. Fortunately, although this punch was caught off guard, the weathering technique is not completely useless. At least after being weathered, you can hold the blow of the iron fist old ghost and survive. Although she still didn't understand why she was injured by the iron fist, it didn't affect Bai Lian's feeling lucky and proud that she was alive. Not everyone is qualified to suffer the fist of a hero. The name of Iron Fist is not from the strong wind. In the Sengoku era, no matter whether it was a ninja or a samurai, facing Karl's fist, they would all be injured if touched, and would die if touched. Those who can survive a single punch from the front have all become under the 3 masters in the Sengoku era, and they are almost as strong as heaven's 687 flower piles. And he, Bai Lian, is not a person who dominates physical skills and body, but he can punch Karl hard, and 7 or 8 ribs are broken. Still alive, still able to get up immediately. If you can take a punch from the old man without dying, you are considered a character. It is worthwhile for me to look at you a few more times. Quote. After hitting Bai Lian severely with 1 punch, Karl stepped forward, and he had already crossed a distance of more than 500 meters, and came to Bai Lian in a flash. Shaving, one of the 6 styles of Superman, has become an instinct of his body, just like eating and drinking. On the ground, stepping is shaving. In the sky, raising one's feet is moonwalk. Everything looks so natural and casual, without any stiffness or effort. Don't take yourself too seriously, and don't underestimate the old man. With such soft fists, the old man can take as many punches as he wants. Quote. BFCI, Bai Lian said nonchalantly, but quietly connected the broken ribs, and turned the violent and sharp chakra into invisible hands to return the displaced internal organs. Is it really? This time out of the mountain, the old man also figured out a problem. With the current strength of the old man, the shadows of the ninja village era can receive 1 punch from the old man. The 5 cages of the first generation outside Hashirama can receive 2 punches. Hearing this, Karl didn't feel annoyed at all, but casually raised 2 fingers at Bai Lian. The so-called pickup is not really pickup. But after 1 punch, the shadow disappeared. Similarly, the 5 cages at the first generation level, except for Senju Hashirama, are all gone with 2 punches. There's a limit to talking big. Bai Lian's gloomy face was full of disbelief. It's not like he didn't fight Tekken during the Sengoku era. Although he was beaten to death like a dog, it is absolutely impossible for the gap to be as big as 2 punches. Before, he had the confidence to take 5 punches from Karl. Live another life, become the main force, punch. As for the 2 punches Karl mentioned, he just scoffed. Unless Karl lives another life like himself, he will not believe that an old ghost who is nearly 100 years old can still beat the peak of the Sengoku era. Do you really think that the old man is standing still all these years? Even a guy like you who is dead but not stiff can improve, let alone a living old man. Quote. Karl sneered, stomped his right foot on the ground. Like a bullet, he rushed to Bai Lian in an instant. Who wouldn't say big words? With you, a relic of the old era, you can still bury the old man with 2 punches. Do you really think you are a fairy? Can't you get older and stronger? Bai Lian's eyes were full of shock and anger. He couldn't even accept another defeat, let alone accept the result of being punched twice. In the face of Karl's trampling and humiliation, he was a little frustrated and no longer had any reservations. While keeping distance with swift style, he made different marks with his left and right hands at the same time. Ice escape ice giant soldier. Taiwan escape strong wind cleave blade. Following the afterimages of his 10 fingers flying, with his body as the center, an iceberg hundreds of meters high rises from the ground, towering between the ground. Before Karl could punch out, the huge iceberg that stood tall had already shattered with a clang. Surrounded by the starry ice debris, a huge ice titan, which was only surpassed by 3 tails, appeared out of thin air. Immediately afterwards, the Ice Titan stood upright with both feet, and after standing up, his body became even taller. With a slight movement, his head had already pierced the sky and pierced the newly condensed sky. At the same time, the Ice Titan who stood up opened his hands, holding 10 huge ice fingers that were finely crafted towards the air, and directly held 2 giant blades of wind shining with dazzling blue light in his hands. Does it feel familiar? This is the power I prepared to defeat you 3 Sengoku masters by living another life. Stronger than Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. Quite similar to the full-body Susanoo, at this time the White Lotus is standing on the forehead of the Ice Titan. At this moment, he looked down with both eyes, looking at Karl who was as small as an ant, and an indescribable conceit went straight to his heart. This is the supreme product of his combination of the power of the 3 blood successors, plus the power of the tailed beast. Stronger than Susanoo, who is just a blood successor limit Sharingan. Chapter 83. Isn't it good to succumb to old age? The first update asks for subscription. Looking like a cat and drawing a tiger, I don't know what it means. Karl took a step forward, like a giant dragon soaring into the sky, straight to the Ice Titan. When Bai Lian heard this, her face was as cold as ice. Anxious, he didn't speak, but his eyes stabbed at Karl like a knife. Boom. At the same time, the Ice Titan, who is like a giant god and can stand up to the sky, suddenly raised his ice hand like a hill, holding the wind bid that stirred up ear-piercing humming, and fell condescendingly towards Karl's shin. With just one swing of the knife, a violent hurricane instantly enveloped the battlefield 1 kilometer away. Before the knife fell, the power of wind-style chakra had already left a gap hundreds of meters long and bottomless on the land of water. Chi. Looking at the giant wind blade that was as big as Mount Tai collapsed, Karl stepped on the void with both feet, and his body did not retreat, but instead advanced. At this moment, no one noticed that Karl, who had been submerged by the giant blade of wind swung by the Ice Titan, had already covered the surface of the pitch-black right fist with circles of burning black flames of light like torrents of water. Boom. Almost at this level, Armament Haki was surrounded by iron fists, and the moment it flowed again and again, Karl swung his right arm and punched out. Seeing that the two collided again, Orochimaru, Uzumaki Kushina and others who retreated far away even pulled up the barrier on the spot, for fear that the extreme collision of the two legendary ninjas would erupt the aftermath of their power. On the other side, the fog ninja led by Yagura also made the same move, displaying the enchantment technique to resist the impact of the legendary powerhouse fighting against each other. After all, the Ice Titan released by First Mizukage triggered a typhoon like a natural disaster with just a light swing of the knife, and the earth was like a torn white paper cracking out appalling cracks. If they really fought and collided with Iron Fist, the damage caused would be unimaginable. However, just as the barriers rose from the ground on both sides, and the ninjas on both sides, including Bai Lian himself, thought that a force that would shake the land of the Water Kingdom and tear the sky collided, Karl's fist suddenly stopped. In front of the coming wind blade. Sheila. Almost at the same time, the body of the Ice Titan and the giant blade of wind waved in his hand also suddenly stopped in midair. Just when many people had doubts, the wind knife pavilion dissipated like a hill. Immediately afterwards, starting from the arm of the Ice Titan, layers of huge ice shattered into ice slag at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 2 seconds, the Ice Titan, which is bigger than a tailed beast, has turned into ice shards floating on the battlefield. Bai Lian looked at the scene in front of her with a dull expression, her pupils were dilated, and her thoughts seemed to be frozen. He wasn't the only one who was stunned, the ninjas in the barrier were also stunned. There is no earth-shattering pressure that devours the mountain as expected. There is no violent air wave that tears the sky and breaks through the clouds. There is not even a blinding glare that floods the battlefield. Some are just Karl throwing a punch casually, and then the Ice Titan and the wind blade are wiped out, which makes people feel very unreal. However, this unreal scene caused an unprecedented visual and spiritual impact on everyone, including Bai Lian. They couldn't imagine, and Bai Lian couldn't imagine, what kind of domineering and tyrannical power it was to achieve the effect of empty escape. Even if it is Dust Dungeon, it will sometimes emit a dazzling white light, and then decompose all the substances in the Dust Dungeon barrier. And what about Karl? With one punch, the ice turned into slag, and the hurricane dissipated. Everything is as if it had never appeared before. Puff. Karl ignored everyone's sluggishness, and slowly withdrew his iron fist. But at the moment when the armament Haki on the iron fist dissipated, Bai Lian, who was about to fall from the sky, exploded a shocking blood mist. What? Accompanied by a shrill scream, the White Lotus, surrounded by blood mist, was like a kite with a broken string, and fell powerlessly into the deep pit where he got up just now. ******* 7. It's just that he could get up just now, but now he can't even move a finger. Did I do something wrong? Why did I lose? This fight shouldn't be like this. Bai Lian, who was paralyzed in the center of the deep pit, looked at the sky blankly, and stared blankly at Karl who fell from the sky. When his life was about to come to an end, his brain went blank, he couldn't think, his body couldn't move, he couldn't even move his fingers. 0. Even the opened eyelids, as if they were relying on the last breath of the backlight, barely supported them from closing. At this time, the only thing that can be done is to use a weak voice to make intermittent murmurs full of confusion and despair. Karl didn't look at Balian, but stood on the spot, put down the cuffs that rolled up to the forearm, buttoned the cuff buttons again, then turned and walked outside. Iron Fist. He didn't take a few steps when a faint cry full of unwillingness and doubt floated from behind. There is only one reason for your failure, that is, you challenge the old. Carl's footsteps paused slightly, like a prophet, and before Bai Lian had a hard time opening his mouth, he said without looking back. Old Ghost Iron Fist, you are still the same as before, your words are so depressing. It's what you look like that makes me unable to tolerate you standing on top of me. Quote. In Bai Lian's dull eyes, a trace of unwilling anger emerged. Isn't it good to succumb to old age? At least still alive. Unlike now, when you are finally living another life, you have taken a shortcut. Carl said flatly. Chapter 84 First Generation Mizukage, kill as soon as you say it. Second update asks for subscription. How can a person like you understand that being weighed down by a mountain that has no end in sight and can never be climbed? What a desperate feeling it is. I have been crushed by your mountain for a lifetime. Since I choose to live my life again, I will never allow myself to be crushed by your iron fist for the rest of my life like in the Sengoku era. I've had enough of living in your shadow all my life. Quote. Bai Lian murmured. Such is the sadness of being born with Carl in the Sengoku era. Even First Mizukage, who is so talented that he can live another life, can only be suppressed by an iron fist until the end of his life. Throughout his life, it cannot be surpassed. 897, can only die in depression in the end. This is true for Balian, and the same is true for other first-generation level Raikage, Fungying Lidu, and Tsuchikage Shihei. Even Shura, the god of ninja who was the head of the five shadows, Uchiha, the strongest ever, is no exception. That will die. Facing Balian's unwillingness, Carl's expression did not fluctuate in the slightest. Then die. What's the point of living another life if you can't climb over this mountain of yours? Bai Lian's voice became louder and louder, but the expression in her eyes became more and more dim, and her trembling eyelids gradually lost the strength to support them, and began to sink slowly. So this time I didn't give you the chance to escape to the land of water with your tail between your legs like last time, but chose to send you directly to King Jing. Carl left without saying a word, and left without looking back, never stopping for Balian, the most amazing and brilliant Mizukage in the history of Mist Shinobi. Ha ha ha. Carl, why are you in both eras? Why are there people like you? Bai Lian smiled miserably, the laughter spread from small to large, from near to far, slowly spreading on the battlefield. Listening to the laughter that filled the battlefield with an atmosphere of despair, unwillingness, and sadness, Tsunade and other Konoha shinobi, and Yagura, these misty ninjas, did not feel strongly touched again. They are all from the ninja era. Among them, those who stand here, such as Orochimaru, Tsunade, Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Shisui, and Yagura, are all the proud sons of this era. However, at this moment, under the influence of Balian's sadness and unwilling laughter, they all empathized, and experienced the sadness and aggrieved generation of ninjas and samurai in the Sengoku era. Not lack of talent, not trying hard enough either. It's not without talent, qualifications, or worries. Leaving aside other ninjas and samurai, let's just talk about the first generation 5 Kages. All of them are super geniuses that are rare in a century. In any era without iron fists, they are all trendsetters of the times. However, the mountain of the number one hero in the ninja world is too high and too steep. After spending a lifetime, even Bai Lian lives another lifetime to climb it, there is still no end in sight, let alone turning over. It is too unfortunate and sad to be born in the same era as Tekken. Even if it's Mizukage of the first generation class, this man will kill as soon as he says it. Orochimaru looked at Iron Fist who was coming straight, and his mind flashed back to his fight against first Mizukage just now. No, this is not called a fight at all, it should be called a massacre, he couldn't help but sigh. What Uchiha Madara felt at the time, is what it feels like now. Uchiha Fugaku saw that after killing first Mizukage, Carl's white shirt was still as brand new, without damage, wrinkle, or even a speck of stain, and couldn't help being moved. Even Bai Lian was unwilling to live another life, and the first thing she did was to fight Carl to the death. What about the proud Uchiha? Back then, Ninja Shura wasn't even a silver medalist. With Uchiha Madara's arrogance, it would be extremely shameful not to win the silver medal, and the bronze medalist, that is really death and discomfort. It's no wonder that even the bold and generous grandpa, when it comes to Carl uncle, still inevitably shows unwillingness. Tsunade stared at Carl, who was like an invincible god of war, and couldn't help but feel suddenly. The head of the 5 Kages of the first generation and one of the 3 masters of Sengoku, although he is not like Balian, who can't even win a medal, but in the final analysis, he is only a silver medalist in the Sengoku era. Uncle Carl, first Mizukage, he seems dead. Uzumaki Kushina heard that Balian's sad long smile stopped abruptly, and couldn't help but say something. Then die. To be able to die at the hand of the old man is already his best destination. What's more, the old man also said before, if you want to send him to eat the pure land, then you must do it. Quote. Carl smiled nonchalantly. He was also the only person present who was not at all touched by the death of first Mizukage. After all, for the people of the Ninja Village era, first generation Gokage was a big figure who lived in myths, legends, and stories. Watching a living legend die in front of his eyes, of course it will be touched. But to him, Balian was just that. It is no different from Kazekage Rasa, son of Tsuchikage, and even the many dead souls of the previous era who died at his hands. After all, 4.8 ninjas like Balian, who lost to him and could not even be called bronze medalists, were already as numerous as Crucian Garp in the Sengoku era. If one of them died, he would just sigh, then he would have to sigh from morning till night for the rest of his life. Only you, uncle, are qualified to say this. Uzumaki Kushina shook his head and gave a wry smile. She understood why Bai Lian was still bitter about living another life after Bai Lian's disastrous defeat. As one of the first generation's 5 Kages, Uncle Carl didn't take notice of him from the beginning to the end. That kind of feeling is probably even worse than being scorned by Uchiha with Sharingan, even more resentful. After all, no matter how contemptuous it is better than ignoring it. Chapter 85 Then Senju Hashirama. Be Stronger. Part 3 asks for subscription. Even first generation level Mizukage can't take 2 punches from you. Carl uncle, how strong are you? After Tsunade handed the suit in his hand to Carl, he couldn't help but ask, thinking that the first Mizukage who was as strong as Balian just now could only be crushed all the way. How strong is Carl? It's not just Tsunade who wants to know. Balian, who was just sent to the Pure Land world by Carl to eat soil, and even first generation Gokage want to know. In other words, this question has been troubling the world since the Sengoku era. Many people tried to find out Carl's limit, but in the end, without exception, they all became ghosts under the Iron Fist. Until Tsunade asked, the question remained unanswered. Is it the strength of a ninja hero? Seeing Tsunade ask this question, Orochimaru, Uzumaki Kushina, Uchiha Fugaku, and even Might's students who wear this Carl couldn't help but K their ears. 15. Even Mizukage of the first generation level and Balian who lived another life couldn't punch Carl twice. It's really hard for them to imagine how terrifying Carl's limit is. How strong is the old man? Facing Tsunade's question, Carl was slightly taken aback, then frowned slightly, as if he was in trouble. He wasn't trying to hide anything. Although it is said that in the ninja world where the wind of killing at the first sight is extremely prevalent, a person's strength is the biggest secret as well as his skills, it is best to keep even relative secret. Just like Senju Hashirama who fell in love with Uchiha Madara for a lifetime, before stabbing Uchiha Madara in the Valley of the End, he still hid a hand of sage mode. But Carl really didn't think so. After all, in front of his fist, knowing or not knowing, the result is the same. Die. That Carl uncle, actually I didn't mean to check your secrets. Seeing Bai Lian's miserable defeat, he asked this question out of nowhere. After Tsunade asked how strong Carl was, he regretted it. As one of the Sannin, she knew it was a no-no. Even if they are close relatives, it is easy to turn against each other because of asking such sharp questions. It's okay, team. In fact, this is not a secret. It's not that I don't want to answer you, but I really don't know how to answer hello. Carl stroked Tsunade's golden double ponytails, and smiled nonchalantly. If he didn't live an extra day, his strength would increase by 1 point. After so many years of living in seclusion in the back mountain of Konoha, without a reference object, he really doesn't know how strong he is. If it was the time of Sengoku, if you asked this question, the old man might still be able to answer you. After all, your grandpa wasn't dead at that time. Fight him in Madara, and you should be able to know the answer. But now, don't talk about the Sengoku 3 masters, there is only one old man left. Even if they are not dead, this meeting probably won't give you the answer. Quote. Carl thought about it seriously, but shook his head. What does Iron Fist mean? In his opinion, even if the ancestors and first Hokage are resurrected, they can't defeat him together. Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui couldn't help but look at each other when they heard the words, and they both saw horror in each other's eyes. Before the difference in strength reaches a certain level, fighting against each other and besieging them are completely different things. In their, or in the perception of the world, the 3 masters of Sengoku are actually the ceiling of the fighting power of the same ninja world. But if it is necessary to subdivide it, ninja heroes is the limit of the ceiling, first Hokage is second, and Shura is the third. But in the final analysis, the 3 heroes are still on the same line. However, what Carl said just now revealed a signal. In the Sengoku era, the 3 masters may really be a line, and they are also the ceiling of the ninja world. In the era of Karen Village, that's not necessarily the case. The only man who doesn't age, that's it. After Orochimaru's snake eyes flashed a touch of horror, he immediately lowered his head, as if he was afraid that others would see the change in his eyes. In fact, he was really afraid that people would read this information from his eyes and expression. There is no way, the information he guessed just now is too terrifying. Once it is made public, people in the ninja world will find that their cognition of the strength of Iron Fist has entered a terrible misunderstanding. When this misunderstanding is re-recognized, it is estimated that it will be the real despair of the rural era. Various thoughts flashed through Orochimaru's mind, and his body trembled uncontrollably. How does that compare to first Mizukage who lives again? Tsunade didn't notice anything wrong with Carl's 577 words, and directly used first Mizukage who lived another life as a reference. Although apart from Carl, Grandpa is the strongest she has ever heard, but Bai Lian, who returns from the dead, is the strongest she has ever seen. In her opinion, White Lotus is more suitable as a reference than Senju Hashirama. I'm stronger than him, Carl said vaguely. What about Grandpa and Uchiha Madara? Tsunade couldn't help asking again. I should be stronger than both of them. Carl paused for a moment, then replied. When everyone heard it, they couldn't help being speechless for a while. Better than first Mizukage, also stronger than Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. After seeing how Bai Lian was hammered to death with their own eyes, they were very skeptical. Is this 1 point, or 100 million points? It is as expected. However, Tsunade and others who were dumbfounded didn't know that Orochimaru, who lowered his head slightly at this moment, heard Carl's answer, and the speculation in his heart seemed to be confirmed, and his pale face covered by his hair suddenly showed a look of horror. Chapter 86 Little Gaikuan has knowledge, so I shouldn't blame the old man. Part 4 Please subscribe. Ah, First Mizukage. Just when Tsunade, Naruto, Uchiha Fugaku and others were trying to figure out how high Carl's strength had reached, Uzumaki Kushina suddenly exclaimed. What First Mizukage? Didn't he be killed by Lord Carl? Is this man going to live 2 more lives? Facing Uzumaki Kushina's sudden exclamation, Tsunade and others suppressed their curiosity, looked around warily, and asked Uzumaki Kushina. After seeing the talent of first-generation Mizukage, even if Balian who just died came to live again, they would not be unacceptable. No, First Mizukage was sent to the Pure Land by Uncle Carl, it's not like you didn't see it, how could he come back alive? Uzumaki Kushina saw that everyone was taken aback by his words, and immediately looked embarrassed. If you haven't come back to life, then what's your name? Tsunade was taken aback. If Balian really comes back to life, then apart from Carl, no one in the ninja village era can check and balance this first-generation Mizukage. Whether it's her, or the arrogant and conceited Uchiha, or Orochimaru and others, they dare not imagine that if Balian can really come back to life again, and escape from the battlefield of the Land of Water, it will bring a new era to this era. What a terrifying storm in the ninja world. 3 Tails. Have you forgotten? Before his death, First Mizukage sealed 3 Tails and became Jinchuriki. Now that he's dead, what about 3 Tails? He's Uncle Carl's little turtle. Uzumaki Kushina hastily explained. At this time, everyone realized that they had ignored the extremely important tailed beast in the past. But there is no way, the strength shown by the 2 legendary powerhouses who danced on the battlefield just now is really too shocking. Compared with Tekken and First Mizukage, the presence of 3 Tails is directly reduced to the point of negligibility. Carl Uncle, 3 Tails, no, the little turtle seems to be a tail beast you raised in captivity, right? If I remember correctly, I remember you said before that you were going to meet Little Turtle. You didn't pay attention for a while, and sent the little turtle to the Pure Land, to be a companion for First Mizukage. When Tsunade looked at Carl, his eyes were a little weird. These days with Carl, she has no doubt that Carl can do such a thing. It seems normal for a person who was careless enough to fall asleep during the battle to ignore the little turtle. Carl didn't speak, but his expression gradually became a little awkward. Wouldn't it be true for Tsunade? Orochimaru, Uzumaki Kushina and others also reacted at this time. It seems that since Balian's death, Carl has been silent, standing aside like a Buddha background board. Seeing the embarrassment on Carl's face at this moment, they couldn't help but suspect that Tsunade had really got it right. This is a battle against a first-generation 5-cage level powerhouse, and it's normal if you can't hold back. If you want to come to Shaogaikuan, you will not blame the old man. After all, the strength of Balian who lives another life is only a little weaker than the old man. Carl touched the back of his head and explained seriously. It's fine if Carl doesn't explain, but when he explains, especially that Balian is only a little weaker than the old man, the expressions of everyone present gradually become weird. If they hadn't witnessed how Balian was hammered to death with their own eyes, they would have believed Carl's nonsense. A First Mizukage who was killed by you with 2 punches, can you hold back? I still have a little confidence in medical ninjutsu. How about, I'll go see if there is any hope of saving the little turtle. Tsunade suggested, only in a slightly less confident tone. People, she saves every day. But tailed beast, she really hasn't healed before, so she doesn't know whether her medical ninjutsu will work or not when used on tailed beast. First Mizukage's body is cold, what else to save? Uncle Carl, as far as I know, if a tailed beast dies, it will be resurrected after a while. When 3 Tails is revived, if you feel unbearable, you can come and take him back to raise him. In the future, he won't have to be summoned or sealed. If you want to come to Kwanja Yuji, you may be grateful to you. Quote. Seeing that Carl tried hard to explain, Uzumaki seemed to be working harder than killing First Raikage, so he couldn't help saying. For tailed beasts, she has never given any rights to them. As long as you don't die, you can keep it dead. It's not a big problem, it can be revived. Well, just do as you say. Let's stop here about the little turtle, who, Orochimaru, dig a hole and bury Balian and the little turtle. For the sake of Xiaogui's death with him, he was not allowed to expose his body to the wilderness after his death. Quote. Carl's eyes lit up. Really Zhao's immediately extinguished the idea of rescuing the chairman. He has always been a sheep herder for tailed beasts, which to some extent coincides with Uzumaki's way of raising sheep. Iron Fist. You B************** D killed me. You almost killed me. Don't worry about Izumi, I can tell you now, why don't you go with Senju Hashirama, you B********** D. Why don't you come to see if I'm doing well? It's better to just leave me alone to fend for myself. Just when the atmosphere of the battlefield became a bit weird, an evil and ominous chakra suddenly emerged from the deep pit where First Mizukage lay dead. At the same time, roars full of resentment sounded from the deep pit one after another, sweeping the entire battlefield like a storm. Chapter 87 It's not unreasonable for the 9-tailed beasts to flee collectively. Part 5 Please subscribe. That's great, little turtle. So you're not dead. As soon as Carl heard the angry voice of 3 Tails, he knew that the 1000-year-old B******** D was in a very good state. Now it's all right. Don't be embarrassed, and don't need to go to the country of water later, you can take it back and raise it now. Of course you be D wants me to die. Bai Lian is dead, you don't even have the intention of coming over to check and rescue her. You still expect me to thank you, and I thank your uncle. As more and more chakra tail beasts poured out, soon a three tails with a face full of anger, resentment, and displeasure appeared on the battlefield. Little turtle, reuniting with your long-lost master, your attitude is very wrong. Carl's tone sank slightly. I slept soundly in the sea. I was summoned, imprisoned, sealed, and almost hammered to death by my long-lost master. Afterwards, he didn't feel guilty at all, and he didn't even plan to try to rescue me. What do you think I should do? Three Tails stared at his bloodshot one eye, and said through gritted teeth. Aren't you dead? As little Kushina said, even if you die, you can still come back to life. 560. Carl tidied up, his snarled hair being stroked by Three Tails. Is this the attitude you should have when you almost killed a beast? I thought that after so many years, you should be better than before. I didn't expect you be D to be the same as before. Quote. After hearing this, Three Tails became even angrier. Again, back then, it was Carl's inappropriate way of raising the nine-tailed beasts to death. That's why they couldn't bear it and fled collectively. Well, the fact that I almost killed you is considered old. But, who did you just call a jerk? Carl's face remained unchanged, and his eyes slightly glanced at Three Tails. Sorry, I was wrong. Three Tails, who was originally furious, froze suddenly after meeting Carl's gaze. In the next second, his huge body suddenly pulled down. Just like the Nine Tails who met Iron Fist in the cage before, he apologized obediently and full of grievances. Except for Uzumaki Kushina who had the honor of witnessing Nine Tails' apology, everyone else, no matter Orochimaru, Tsunade, or Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Shisui, all looked at the scene in front of them with dull expressions. Furious and well-behaved apology. The seamless switching between moments left them stunned on the spot. Is this still the nine-tailed beast that is too arrogant to be tamed and can only be sealed? How much is this, not just this skillful apology skill? It's not unreasonable for the nine-tailed beasts to flee collectively. At this moment, everyone who knew that Carl had raised 9 big-tailed beasts had this thought in their hearts. Judging by the appearance of Three Tails at this time, everyone can more or less imagine how Carl raised tailed beasts back then. The 9-tailed beasts were not raised to death and still had a chance to escape, thanks to the great life of the tailed beasts. Not only is it a chakra collection, but its vitality is also extremely tenacious, and there is also a chance to read the file and start again. Even if it is really raised to death by Carl, it can be raised again after a while. Lord Carl, what are you going to do with them? Seeing that Three Tails Isoba was aggrieved like thousands of tons of children, Orochimaru forcibly shifted his attention to the thousands of BFBGS curled up on the other side of the battlefield. Carl turned his head and glanced at the group of one and led by Goju Yagura, but didn't speak immediately. Lord Carl, gone. Just when Naruto was about to speak, she suddenly realized that Carl, who was standing in front of her just now, had disappeared at some point. When? He just stood in front of us. So fast that even the insight of Mangekyo Sharingan can't keep up. Seeing this scene, all the Konoha shinobi participants were dumbfounded, except for Three Tails who had a familiar expression. Especially Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui, who had been driving the Mangekyo Sharingan, couldn't help being moved when they realized that Carl had disappeared under their noses. There. At this time, Hyuga Hazashi with white eyes opened his mouth suddenly. Everyone followed his line of sight, only to realize that Carl, who had disappeared just now, was like a mountain that was not scary, standing majestically in front of many Kirin. Come here in no time. It's as fast as space-time ninjutsu. Master Yagura, shall we fight or flee? Seeing Carl appearing in front of him like a teleportation, Shapa was in an uproar. Some were terrified, some were desperate, some clenched their ninjas tightly, and some even retreated quietly to the back of the crowd, trying to find a chance to escape. All of a sudden, Shinming Wuren showed a wonderful appearance of sentient beings. Who, Your Excellency Carl, are you here to take the life of our missed ninja? When the crowd of Wujin looked at me, I looked at you, and were at a loss. Yagura took a deep breath and plucked up the courage to walk in front of Carl. However, Carl not only didn't speak, he didn't even look at him. Your Excellency Carl. Yagura was startled and angry, but he didn't dare to show it. It's already this time, why are you still hiding? Do you think you can hide it from the old man, or do you want the old man to invite you in person before you come out? Carl ignored Yagura, and stared straight at an unremarkable Kirin in the crowd. Mizukage Brat. Chapter 88 Mizukage, who is second only to Balian in the history of Mist Shinobi Part 6. Please subscribe. Third Mizukage. Yagura, who was originally full of anger but dared not speak out, couldn't help but follow Carl's gaze and look at the inconspicuous Kirinin. Pop. Facing Yagura's searching gaze, the Kirin did not speak, but a white mist suddenly appeared from his body. Immediately afterwards, a figure with slender hair and closed eyes, like a nobleman of a great country, came into everyone's eyes. Really Third Mizukage. Yagura stared fixedly at Third Mizukage, thinking of something. His baby face gradually became gloomy, and even showed a murderous intent. As a candidate for Mizukage, it is naturally impossible to be a fool. Mist Shinobi 7 Swords Thing. Balian's second life. With Third Mizukage appearing in this way, he had to think in a very bad direction. Since coming out of the mountain, the voice I've heard the most is your third generation's 5 shadows. The strongest Kazekage in the history of Ninja World, the strongest Raikage in the history of Cloud Shinobi, the strongest third Hokage in history, Onoki with 2 scales, these names are really better than the other, and they are louder than the names of people in that era many. On the contrary, you, Mizukage boy, compared to the other third generation 5 shadows with the title of the strongest, you, Mizukage, can only be described as mediocre. Many people even say that you are the only one in the third generation a shadow used to make up the number, the tail of the crane in the 5th shadow of the third generation. Quote. Carl stared straight at Third Mizukage who was walking towards him step by step through the crowd. Make up the number. The end of the crane. Our Mizukage masters are not so miserable. Whether it was Yagura, who was originally dissatisfied with Third Mizukage, or the other one in present, they all looked filled with righteous indignation after hearing Tekken's words. As a Kurigakure ninja, no one wants to be judged as mediocre. Then I don't know what kind of person I am in the eyes of Lord Carl. With a wave of his hand, Third Mizukage suppressed all the voices of Mizukage. Even Yagura, who was displeased with him, didn't speak. At this time, both Mist Shinobi and the Konoha Shinobi chasing him all looked at Carl. The only character in the third generation 5 cages, Mizukage who was second only to Hakuren in the history of Mist Shinobi. As soon as Carl's understated words came out, it was like detonating a missile in a lake, instantly stirring up huge waves in Konoha Shinobi and Ziren. As our third Mizukage that good. The group of Onen, headed by Yagura, all looked stunned. Although they don't want third Mizukage to be called mediocre and not as good as other first generation movies, they also have to accept that other third generation movies are indeed famous far and wide. Compared with third Hokage, Kazekage, Tsuchikage, and movies, third Mizukage is a level weaker both in terms of reputation and record. What exactly did third Mizukage do? It's actually higher than Mr. Sarutobi's evaluation. Tsunade and Orochimaru looked at each other, and they both saw surprise in each other's eyes. Although, having seen the demeanor of first generation's 5 cage levels and the ferocity of the Iron Fist above the 5 cages, they all know that the name, the strongest Hokage in history, hanging on Sarutobi Hiruzen's head is extremely watery, even they also secretly laughed. But in the eyes of the two of them, Sarutobi Hiruzen's water is based on the comparison with first generation level 5 cages and Tekken, a Sengoku 3 Masters level powerhouse. In addition to second Hokage Senju Tobirama, Sarutobi Hiruzen surpasses the second generation, third generation, and even fourth generation of other hidden villages in terms of strength and talent. Even compared with third Raikage, who is vaguely known as the strongest in the ninja village era, Sarutobi Hiruzen is not inferior. I didn't expect that in the eyes of the ninja world, I, the third generation who was just making up numbers, could get such a high evaluation from your excellency Carl. Ask for flowers. This is really flattering. Upon hearing this, third Mizukage opened his eyes that had been closed tightly all the time. He took a deep look at Carl, as if he wanted to remember deeply, or see through the man in front of him who let first Mizukage live another life, but in the end he could only die with hatred and was completely sent to the Pure Land. Third Mizukage sure did something that the world doesn't know about. Although Uchiha Fugaku didn't know what third Mizukage did to get such an evaluation like Iron Fist, but he looked sideways at the magnanimity shown by third Mizukage at this time. Bai Lian can live another life, except for his own talents, everything is inseparable from your arrangement. Without you hiding behind the scenes and relentlessly helping, he would never have the chance to see the old man again. The why. As soon as Carl's words came out, Konoha Shinobi was shocked, and Mist Shinobi was shocked and angry. It seems that all of this really cannot be hidden from you, your excellency Carl. It's just too bad, Shodai still can't shake you in the end. Even if we live another life, even with the power of Mist Shinobi, in front of your Iron Fist, Lord Carl, the efforts of our 2 generations of Mizukage and the sacrifice of Mist Shinobi are all futile. Third Mizukage sighed. Fangfo also accepted the fact that Balian was sent to the Pure Land, and closed his eyes again. Even if the 5 cages of the first generation level are not Hashirama, the other 4 cages are extremely powerful. It takes a huge amount of chakra just to keep Balian's soul, let alone revive him completely. With only 1 generation of 7 swordsmen, even if they destroy the chakra released by the 8 gate in their bodies, it is just a drop in the bucket. Without the accumulation of decades of ninja village, the resurrection of Balian. That's an idiot's nonsense. Quote. Carl's words directly revealed the mystery of Balian's resurrection for the world. Chapter 89. Have you ever witnessed the footwork of tearing apart the fists of the sky and severing the sea? Part 1. Please subscribe. Corpse. Nara Lujo's eyes flashed, and he caught a key message in an instant. Kurigakure's Assassination Special Forces, Corpse Disposal Team. Orochimaru's tawny snake pupils shrank slightly when he heard this, and then blurted out. So it is. Yagura looked at third Mizukage with a gloomy face. Not only the 3 of them, more and more people also understood the inside story of Balian's resurrection. Kurigakure has always been the top 5 ninja villages in the pursuit of rebellious ninja, and even set up a corpse disposal team to recover the rebellious ninja's corpse. In the past, no one felt that there was anything wrong, let alone associate this matter with the resurrection of Balian. 183. After all, it is normal to hunt down Renren, and it is also normal to recover the corpse. There are many ninjutsu in the ninja world, which can directly extract the ninja's memory from the brain of the corpse. In order to avoid the spread of information, secret techniques, blood succession limit, etc., it is necessary to apply for the family body. At most, Kurigakure is more powerful in this regard. But now, according to Carl and Third Mizukage, behind these seemingly insignificant things, Orochimaru and others finally noticed that there is a shocking secret. Is it just a corpse? Carl smiled coldly. If only a special assassination unit and a corpse disposal team are set up, then what qualifications does Third Mizukage have to be second only to Balian? There are still troops like this in the other 4 ninja villages, but they are not as famous as Kurigakure. Blood. The village of Blood Mist. Citrus Yagura turned pale, and suddenly pointed at Third Mizukage. You have repeatedly refused to ban the village of Blood Mist, and continued to implement this brutal rule just to revive First Mizukage. Am I right, Sir Third Mizukage? His eyes were gloomy and cold like a knife stabbing at Third Mizukage, and his voice was full of murderous intent and coldness. Third Mizukage was silent. Third Mizukage is deliberately carrying out the Blood Mist policy. Why did Mizukage-sama do this? Idiot, without the Blood Mist policy, how could so many Mizukage be persecuted? Without so many Mizukage dying because of the Blood Mist policy, how can there be enough chakra resurrection? Yagura's growling questioning and Third Mizukage's silence made more and more Warren understand what a terrifying conspiracy lies behind the village of Blood Mist. From the cultivation of the ninja school to graduation, mission execution, and even promotion to Jonin, a large number of fog ninjas will be eliminated in every link. In other ninja villages, elimination does not necessarily mean death. But in Mist Shinobi, elimination means death. It is self-evident at this time where the dead Kirin finally went and what the corpses were used for. Just to revive a long-dead person, for his illusory, even meaningless ambition, you actually sacrificed so many ninjas in the village without hesitation. Is this how you are Mizukage? Quote. Seeing that Third Mizukage didn't say a word, Yagura pulled out a ninja sword and pointed it at Third Mizukage's throat. Seeing this, the other Mizukage not only didn't stop, but even glared at Third Mizukage one by one. The strong live and the weak die. This is the law of the ninja world. This was true in the Sengoku era, and it was also true in the ninja village era. I just maximized the effect of some people who were already eliminated. Quote. Facing Yagura's ninja knife, and the cold eyes of many mist ninjas, Third Mizukage opened his mouth slowly. What about the 7 swordsmen? Citrus Yagura was even angrier when he heard this. In his opinion, the swordsmen didn't have to die. As long as Third Mizukage voluntarily sends a letter of surrender and completely withdraws from the Third Ninja World War when Iron Fist sets foot in the land of water, Mist Shinobi will not suffer any casualties. However, Third Mizukage told the secret of the 7 ninja swords to the 7 swordsmen, aroused their ambition and fighting spirit, and then sent them to the battlefield. They have enjoyed the benefits brought by Mist Shinobi 7 swords, and naturally they have to bear the obligations of Mist Shinobi 7 swords. Yagura, otherwise why do you think I gave Mist Shinobi such a high status? Third Mizukage was unmoved, as if it wasn't him who was pointed at the throat by the ninja knife. Does it worth? Citrus Yagura has extremely complex expressions. You were born in a peaceful era, or as a flower in the greenhouse of the ninja village era, you don't understand at all. Only after witnessing the cruelty, coldness, and despair of that war-torn era, will you understand how humble and ridiculous the shadows of our era, the 5 great ninja villages, and the 5 great countries are, and how they will be when the real despair comes. How helpless. The paralyzed face of Third Mizukage, which has remained unchanged for 10,000 years, gradually showed panic, pain, and powerlessness, and finally turned into deep madness. I really don't understand what you're talking about. Citrus Yagura's heart moved, but he was more at a loss. Have you ever witnessed the fist of a ninja hero who tore through the sky, and the footwork that cut off the sea? Have you ever seen the Senju Buddha, the god of Ninja 3.5, which is taller than a mountain and bigger than a tailed beast? Have you ever seen the ninja Shura who cut off all phenomena and rewritten the terrain of a country? Third Mizukage seemed to think of the past and once again experienced the horror scene once again. He suddenly became extremely ferocious and terrified, and he no longer had the image of a noble son before. Yagura opened his mouth, but thinking of the battle between Carl and First Mizukage just now, he couldn't say a word. My heart, which was originally filled with anger, hatred, and murderous intent, suddenly felt unusually heavy for some reason. Not only him, the hearts of all Zero Ninja present were occupied by sudden depression. Chapter 90 Suzuo 9 Tales. It's just a small scene, the second update asks for subscription. You, Yagura, haven't seen it, each of you, Mistnin, haven't seen it, all of you haven't seen it, but I have seen them all. Before the First Ninja World War, I saw a tailed beast bomb that I didn't even know what words to use to describe it. Suddenly, from the land of fire on the other side of the ocean, Luffy came to our land of water. Flying over my head, and then a town in our country was completely wiped off the ninja map. Do you know what that is? It was just a battle between Senju Hashirama of Sengoku Sanji and Uchiha Madara. No, it should be the aftermath of the battle, not even the aftermath strictly speaking. That attack, to them, is at best the same as a shuriken that we ninjas fight and throw at will, except that our shuriken can only take one life away, while the hands of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha 15 Madara sword is to directly wipe out a town, or even a small country. Quote. Third Mizukage looked around at everyone, and everyone looked at him, as if they could see the tailed beast bomb that Uchiha Madara randomly projected on the land of water on the other side of the ocean from the desperate and helpless eyes. Screen. Citrus Yagura was silent. Tsunade, Orochimaru and the others were also silent. The only person present who was not moved by Third Mizukage's words was Carl. Not only because this is a commonplace scene for him, but more importantly, he has already beaten Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, so how could he be proud of Uchiha Madara's tailed beast bomb? Discoloration. If I told you that it wasn't that town that was wiped out, and it wasn't the countless lives there, but as Kurigakure, and every Kurigakure standing here today, Yagura, what would you do? How do you feel? Third Mizukage glanced at Yagura, who was silent, and suddenly said something surprising. What? The blood on Yagura's face faded in an instant. A feeling of terror and despair instantly enveloped every mist ninja. This is why Bai Lian suddenly died that year. He was hit by Madara's Susan Nine Tails, and it's his fault that he didn't go to the Pure Land to report on the spot. Quote. Carl, who was standing on top of Three Tails, said firmly. Although he had already retired at that time, he didn't participate in the Battle of the Valley of the End, and he didn't even go to see it, but he knew it clearly. As Lord Carl said, it was Master First Mizukage who risked his life to protect Kurigakure at that time. Third Mizukage took a deep breath and forcibly pulled his mind away from that horrible memory back then. First Mizukage, it's actually him. The expression of the mist ninjas Yagura, Terumi-Mei and others have become extremely complicated. Apparently, none of the Mizukages expected that the selfish, ruthless, insidious First Mizukage in their eyes died protecting Kurigakure. At this time, intelligent people such as Orochimaru and Nara Shirju have understood why Baron wants to live another life, and why Third Mizukage does not spare any effort to support Baron's resurrection. You must have heard such things a lot, right? It is the greatest tragedy for ninjas and samurai to be born in the same era as ninja heroes. Do you know why it is sad? It is because for the three of them, even throwing a shuriken at random can be an unstoppable disaster for any person, any force, or any country. Quote. Third Mizukage glanced at all ninjas, not just Mizukage, but also Konoha shinobi. In the face of the power of the Sengoku Sanji surpassing all ninjas and samurai in more than one dimension, as strong as the 5 major ninja villages, only when they are protected by first-generation level shadows can they have the capital to survive. At least not when Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara are fighting, they will not be taken away by their unintentional blow. Third Mizukage's words once again subverted everyone's perception of the Sengoku era. That kind of sadness, that kind of despair is indeed not something that they, who were born in the ninja village era, can experience with just thinking about it with their brains. Only people like Third Mizukage who have witnessed despair, experienced despair, and felt despair will do everything possible to resurrect First Mizukage. This was done only to allow Kurigakure to seize the last remaining capital. No wonder Third Tsuchikage Onoki's son died, but he let the major forces in the GU ninja world ridicule him, and sent a letter of surrender to Lord Carl. At this time, when Orochimaru, Ino Shikacho, Uchiha Shisui, Uchiha Fugaku, Konoha Shinobi, looked at Carl again, their eyes had changed. In addition to the original awe, there was also a faint trace of fear. Even though the three masters of Sengoku are inextricably linked with Konoha, they still can't stop them from fearing the man who has mastered the power beyond the ninja dimension. But the Sengoku era, all this has passed, it has become history. Yagura murmured, the voice getting smaller as it went to the back. Because he remembered the iron fist standing on the head of Three Tails Isobu at this time. That is a more terrifying existence than Uchiha Madara, who almost took away the entire Kurigakure in a wave before the first ninja war. That's just you, and the ridiculous wishful thinking of most people in the ninja village era. The Sengoku era is history, but the man who destroyed the Sengoku era stands before you. Quote. Third Mizukage snorted coldly, took off the hat that symbolized Mizukage's name on his head, and then put it on Yagura's head under the surprised gazes of many Mizukage. Mizukage-sama, what is this? Mizukage's position came so violently that Yagura was caught off guard.